Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
At last, my podcast is complete again.
He's not a pirate.
I can't get that last. His voice is so weird.
At last.
At last.
Yeah.
The one I wanted to find was Alan Rickman saying "you gandered" 4 times in a row.
Oh,
you gandered,
right.
you gandered, you gandered. I can't do it. A, I can't do Rickman.
You can't do Rickman, and also you don't remember the line.
Right. But you know that part where he catches Jamie Campbell Bower?
At my ward.
Right, and he just keeps on saying gandered over and over again. And that's my new ASMR. I had forgotten what a sort of pleasurable physical response I have to hearing Alan Rickman say gandered 5 times in a row.
You gandered at her. Yes, sir, you gandered. Yeah.
I'm just
Uganda?
Well, right. Is that what he's really talking about?
Uganda. Alan Rickman, obviously, we lost him too soon.
Sure.
Still a very, very tragic loss to the artistic community. I am happy that before he left us, someone figured out that he needed to say gandered. It was like what's the thing we haven't given him the chance to do on screen? And Burton said, I got 2 for you. 1, say gandered 5 times in a row. 2, play a CGI caterpillar.
Right. Yeah, right. We'll sneak that in under the wire. Right.
A thing I forgot is that this movie shares 5 cast members with Alice in Wonderland. He rolled them over.
He always does that, though. He's always
here.
Yes.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right.
I'm going to be making an out. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's his vibe.
And I think this is when he's doubled down on London, which, David, you probably don't understand this, but Tim Burton...
There's no place like London.
Lived in London for a while. Right. I mean, you understand it because Sweeney Todd lives in London, but you don't have any personal connection to this idea.
Yeah, he lives in a very evocative, real London. You know, very, very, very much like the real place. Yeah, I grew up in London.
What?
Oh
What are you talking about?
Even the guest.
Our guest is perplexed.
1995, I moved to London. I've seen productions of Sweeney Todd in London. Yeah.
I mean, look at the
I think at the Royal Opera House. That's where they did.
The shock and awe on our guest face, and it's genuine because no one can act this well.
No,
2 Tonys be damned.
Certainly not me.
No one can act this well.
We have a very exciting guest, but you should introduce the show first.
It's called Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Right.
It's about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career,
right,
given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear. Sometimes they bounce, baby. I can't do it. It's because I'm going too far into Jack Sparrow, baby.
Well, he's treading that line too. I mean, it's a broad accent.
You got a touch of the Sparrow in this performance.
Sure. Right.
This is just sort of like depressed Jack Sparrow.
Right, like Jack Sparrow if he was on a prison ship for 50 years. Yeah,
right, or
it was all drained out of him.
Johnny Depp style wine spiral.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. It's a miniseries on the films of Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Podward Scissorcast. And today we have a very special guest.
Yes.
We had teased when we were getting ready to do this season. We said, we have booked a guest for this episode in the very loose way that we book by 6 months in advance going, what do you hypothetically want to do this?
Text someone.
Are you free in the next year?
Yeah, in the next year, sometime the next year. Who has won one of the major awards. We want to keep it vague so that people could speculate.
Right.
So it has won one of the major awards.
One of the EGOT,
of the performing arts.
Sure, right.
But in fact, he has won 2.
Of the same one.
Of the same one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I
have 0 of all 4.
Yeah, exactly. You got a double T.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a ta-ta. Michael Cerveris is our guest today.
Hello.
Who has played Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
I have.
And when we were like, who do we want to get on?
Right.
I had this lightning bolt of like...
Right. Patti LuPone.
And
she said...
recommended
you
me
asked
to
her
you.
And she gave you a withering look.
She gave me a withering look. She told me to turn off my cell phone. And then she reminded me that I know you and we've worked together. And
Were you on that
Sweeney
tick?
Todd. Yes.
Tick with Mikey?
We're doing that tick thing.
Yeah.
But I like this movie a lot. I feel like David likes this movie a little less than I do.
I love the show Sweeney Todd.
Okay.
And so I think when I saw this movie, which is I hadn't seen it since I saw it in theaters, I was like, wow, I still love Sweeney Todd. And it was violent. And I sort of appreciated how violent it was. Those are my two big takeaways.
Now, I had never seen the show.
Sure.
Before
At
seeing
all.
this movie.
Okay.
So I like this movie a lot, but it exists as its own object to me.
That's interesting. Well,
Right.
in that case, it's probably almost great to see
I think
this,
it's
'cause
kind of great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still 80% of
Right.
one of the great musicals, like
Yeah.
one of the best shows of all time.
But I've also spent much of the last 10 years having people go like, but you don't understand. You haven't seen the show. Like getting so frustrated when I
so
try
you
to
still
defend
haven't
it.
seen the show? You didn't see any
Still
of the...
haven't.
They had that
I mean-
revival recently where they made you a pie.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Shamefully. But so I felt like we need to have someone on who not just is like, a fan of the show, but has
Yeah.
literally lived in it to explain what this movie is or isn't doing correctly at different times.
Mhm.
Because I have no understanding of any of that.
Right.
I just like that it's
You know what you like.
bloody. I know what I like. But I also I have been in the other position 1,000 times where I covet this beloved object and someone adapts it poorly and it drives me insane. I spend I go out into the streets and rip my clothes off.
Sure,
and
you
scream
ring a
bloody
bell.
murder.
Yeah.
Right.
You won't believe what they did to Thundercats. You're like ringing a bell.
So how long was the production that you were in? How long did it run?
It ran for a year on Broadway.
Okay.
Did you do it off Broadway as well?
There was no off-Broadway.
It was in
just-
London, though. The same.
It was the same
type of
conception,
production,
Right.
directed by John Doyle, also there, and with
where you play the instruments.
yeah, in
That
our
was the
case,
big
it was,
idea,
that was the
right.
big
Yeah.
change. Yeah, it was an ensemble of 9 instead of the 35 people who had done it originally, and the orchestra was just us. So the
Right, yeah.
orchestrations were all changed, and it was more of a kind of chamber piece, which Sondheim always said was his original intention.
It's pretty intimate. It's a lot
Yeah.
of the songs are often just in a room, like
Yeah.
two people singing to each other. It's
The-
not.
I mean,
There's no dancing.
I have to imagine
like-
stage. It is still mostly set within the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of one unit
Right.
kind of set. And it was Hal Prince's idea to kind of, open it up into this sort of, allegory of the industrial
right.
world grinding up people. And,
The original production had this giant contraption.
It
I
was
mean, I've never
massive.
seen it, but I've always heard about it.
It was the first Broadway show I ever saw.
Really?
Wow.
I saw in previews right before it had opened. So people didn't really know.
People were
yet
not
what it was
prepared
gonna
for it,
be.
right? Yeah,
And it was not, super warmly received at the
Right.
time, but
Well, this is my biggest question for you. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you to cover for the fact that my phone started ringing to make it look like this was all in control.
deftly done, though, gotta
Thank
say.
you. Acting's reacting, baby.
it was critically fairly well liked, right? It won award. Like I
Yeah,
think,
it did, but it wasn't-
It was a very polarizing.
It's not cherished
thing.
the way it is now.
Sure. Right.
It's so many people's favorite musical of all time.
Sure,
now.
maybe
But-
their
but-
favorite song.
right.
At least, yeah.
And sometimes career is a lot of that, where it's a lot of why didn't we give this
Yeah.
the respect
Sure,
it deserves?
sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't the first musical I saw, but seeing the production of Assassins that you were in and won your first Tony for was one of those for me,
uh-huh.
where it was a total light bulb. I didn't realize you could do this.
Yeah, that
Everything about it.
that was my experience too. I mean, I
Right.
had grown up sort of being in community theater musicals and stuff like that, and but I'd never really thought that I would be in musicals because I thought the things that I'm interested in and what little talents I have is not really destined for Oklahoma or the music.
I mean, it was
man.
sort of because you're a very talented musician and a very talented actor. But in terms of what you're interested in, you were feeling I don't want to do musical comedy.
Yeah, I enjoy going to see it, but
Sure.
I don't think I have much to offer. And then I saw Len Cariou in this production, and there was this fantastic, terrifying actor in this really dark and funny piece, and I thought, well, maybe there is a world where my tastes.
So this is
actually
like the
fit.
Thunderbolt moment in
Yeah.
a way, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, was it a thing for you where then that became oh God, what if I ever got to do that? Was it a notion of I hope I get to play Hamlet someday. I hope I get to play,
I mean, it was in a broad way.
Sure.
I mean, at the time,
Broadway.
of course, in a broad
in
way.
a Broadway. Yeah.
I identified with Victor Garber as Antony, and that was the role because age wise, that
Right.
was what I was
Sure.
closer to. So I sort of thought, someday maybe I'll get to do that. And when the chance to do this came around, it was so much sooner than I ever expected it would be, because I had this idea of Sweeney being much older than me, and I realized
Len Carey. How old would Len Carey? Like in his 40s, maybe.
Len Carey was younger than I was when I actually did it, but he looked so much older. Like their vision of the character was much more kind of haggard and
then
world-weary.
Bob Gunton played him in the revival, which is another sort of character actor guy, like the warden from the Shawshank.
Those are both guys who are wonderful actors and are handsome men, but have old guy face and always had old guy face.
Right.
I mean, there's that
like
effect
20,
too. Right. I'm sure they made them both up a ton. But you look at pictures of young Bob Gunton, and you're like, right, he always looked like Bob Gunton.
Yeah.
He had to kind of grow into it. So
true.
it's like he's maybe best fit to do in theater roles like that are sort of like agelessly cranky.
Exactly.
To be totally dismissive.
But so wait, you were talking about the opportunity comes around. You're younger than you. What, that's sort of 2004, 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah. 2004, I guess, was Assassins. So this was 2005, 2006. So
right.
Yeah.
But you were happy to do it.
I was thrilled,
sure,
and so grateful that John Doyle's take on it was so different from the original, because I had worn the vinyl LP out, learning every nuance of it, and I saw it 7 times on Broadway. I saw George Hearn and Len Carey do it, and I just kept going back through the couple years that it was on. And so I knew it inside out, like that version. And it would have been, I was already competing with my memory of those guys to begin with.
Yeah.
So it was such a helpful thing to me that John just wanted to go back to the beginning and explore and question everything about it. I mean, everybody involved in our production revered that original version. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to make our own, or we're going to, solve it or something.
Right. Like it wasn't something broken that needed fixing. Right.
No, but we realized, even with things like the in the Worst Pies number, we started staging it the first day, and we had like a rolling pin. Patti LuPone, who was playing Mrs. Lovett, had a rolling pin and a dough and flour and stuff. And as we went along, it's like, well, she never actually talks about making pies. She talks about the pies, but it's Angela Lansbury's. Angela Lansbury's version is so indelibly etched in our mind that we think, well, you got to have a rolling pin and you got to have flour, and but actually none of that is taking place in the lyric, in the song. And in the end, we got rid of all of that, and it just sort of reduced everything down to its bare essentials.
So you didn't take anything for granted. You sort of re-examined every
every assumption that we had.
Reset, I guess, back to
And wasn't Pirelli played by a woman? Is that
yes,
right?
Yeah, Donalyn Champlin. Who learned the accordion to be able to play the accordion. I mean, it's like fiendishly talented people all around me. I would sit there some nights, just like there were sections where I wasn't playing, when I was just sort of sitting to the side and watching Lauren Molina, who's playing Joanna, sitting on a chair on top of a casket on top of sawhorses with her cello, not just playing Joanna and singing Joanna, but playing the cello part at the same time.
Both playing Joanna and playing Joanna.
Sure. Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I guess you've maybe sort of just answered this through, talking about the process and Doyle forcing you to sort of reset. And, I had all my mental gymnastics with the Tick, because it's like, here's this thing where I've grown up with this character I know, but this script that I'm playing is new.
Right.
So I would just engage with it as these lines have never been said by a guy before, so I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But if you've listened to a soundtrack 1,000 times and you've seen it 7 times on Broadway, and you have those specific sort of choices in your head. I mean, etched, not just you saw it and someone did it well, but it's right.
How do you forget that?
You know the meter, you know their pitch, you know everything.
Yeah.
Is there do you put active work into making sure you do something different than them? Do you try to just block it out of your mind? No,
I think it was because of the way John worked. It made it possible to kind of forget all of that pretty quickly, and like you're saying, going back to this new script, even though the words were the same as has been said before, and it all sounded different because the orchestrations were different. Sure. We were playing, the instruments. And it was also different because John works in this fascinating way. Everything's just kind of developed so organically, and he has, because of the changes in the orchestration, some of the actors weren't playing the same instruments that the actors in London had played,
Mm-hmm.
so that meant that they were free to do different things. We were also sort of building the set through the show as well. Like
that's
we
crazy.
would move the ladders and we would move the coffins, and so the direction would be like we would just start at the top of the show and just kind of stage just minute moment by moment as we went along. And so John would say, all right, I need you to take this bucket full of blood and it needs to get to the top of that ladder by the time Joanna sings. And then it was sort of up to you whether you grabbed the bucket and ran up the ladder and then just sat up there and waited until Joanna sang, or whether you sort of hung out down at the bottom and just ran up at the last minute to be there in time for
That's
Joanna.
really cool.
Or, you could kind of do something in between. And you could do that on a given night differently every time. So everything you did was related to what everybody else on stage was doing, which started to take your attention off yourself and what you were doing. You just had like a bunch of tasks.
That's
and
really interesting.
it was so great.
Because because of the take on that production, the actors are inheriting a lot of jobs that often are done by other people on stage where you have to stay kind of not mechanized, but precisely timed because, well, that's connected to someone with a pulley.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Or,
to,
right, or a guy with a tuba.
Yeah.
But then when you're the guy with the tuba,
Right.
you
and
can
the pulley.
Right, you can sort of still like live in the moment in the way you're doing that's that's really
even
cool.
more than usual. And I think it made for us an amazing ensemble because we had to listen and feel and breathe with everybody
Right.
else on stage. And even to play the music, we didn't have a conductor, so we just had to listen to each other. And often we're not facing the rest of the company, so you had to be able to kind of like focus with the back of your head. So it changed the way you acted, the way you listened, the way you did everything.
Okay, so this is why I'm fascinated.
And also you have to like act and sing
oh, there's
as
that.
well,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
But the great thing is that you're spending so much of your conscious time focusing on these detailed things that it actually lets you
you're very natural.
act and
right.
sing much better because you aren't, doubting yourself every second.
Well, it's that
And-
weird fucking thing of just like how much obstacles actually help.
Obstacle or opportunity?
Well, that's the thing. But like all those like nightmare scenarios where you're just like, oh fuck, like this ran long and we're losing the light and we have like 2
Yeah.
minutes to get this scene done.
Just
Somehow
gotta do
that
it.
ends up being the best scene.
Yeah.
And then the things where you're like, give me all the time I need.
Sure.
It's just like
It
garbage.
sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like, I can say this because we shot in a very weird way on season 2. So you will not be able to necessarily ascertain the shooting order. But I was like, I'm a very neurotic person.
No.
And I was, well, okay. So
Are you from England too?
Sclusy. Here's a little Sclusy, a hot scoop. I'm a very neurotic person. And I like went into season 2 and I was like, here's my new approach for season 2. I'm going to be very calm.
Oh, right.
And I was like,
You're sort of trying to put that out there in the universe?
yes.
Yeah, right, okay.
Right. Like your hot David thing. I was like,
sure.
David said he's
Put a
going to
hashtag on it.
Right. David's going to become hot this year.
Hot David
cool.
2019. Yeah.
Right. And 2018
It just came from the gym.
Yeah, was the year. Well, okay, come on. Keep it in your pants.
Nothing going on there.
Literally, put it back in your pants.
Ben squeezed my arm.
But I was like, I'm going to be really calm. And I'm just not going to let myself get worked up. And I'm going to try to be relaxed and breathe and prepared and not let myself get backed into corners or any of that. And then inevitably, the show started becoming crazy, as it does.
Sure.
Well, and it's built around your being neurotic, so that you must have really thrown everybody else.
Yeah, maybe they were like, this is too easy for him. Let's put the screws on him.
I remember the exact order we shot stuff in, and when I watched the first 5 episodes and I saw the pieces that were filmed in those first 10 days, I go, wow, I am not good here. Like, I am not good. And then the days where I was losing my mind and I was like, I can't even act. I'm so stressed out about all this stuff. I'm fucking killing it.
Well, like Michael says,
Right.
you got to
There
be
you go.
stressed out.
You gotta be
Arthur's
stressed
a
out.
stressed out guy.
Right. But also that thing of just like, if you have other things to worry about,
Yeah.
it forces you to just make the sort of seat of your pants decisions, which if you are connected to
And
the character, the
talented.
material or any of that, right.
Yeah.
If you have sort of, the basic operating chops or whatever, then it's probably better performance than the one where you're second guessing yourself and thinking
Yeah.
about it and being meticulous about it.
Nuancing it, and yeah.
So you live in the show for a year. You live in this character for a year.
Yeah.
You're really like putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this performance from like multiple sides. And he's making the movie like right around the same time. I mean, you've told me he came.
Yeah, he and Helena came like early, well, like midway, maybe through the run.
Did you know that the movie was happening at that point? Like, was that announced?
It was rumored.
Okay.
I feel though, like Sam Mendes
was supposed to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And it was like ostensibly this was the Sam Mendes movie that Tim Burton took over.
Uh-huh.
It was DreamWorks had the rights. John Logan had been writing the script.
Mm-hmm.
These producers were on board.
Right.
And then obviously he made it his own thing, but it was that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was like right around the time that it was becoming apparent that Sam wasn't going to do it, that they showed up kind of unannounced, and we didn't know for sure that the movie was happening, but the fact that they were there seemed to kind of, hint that maybe they were at least thinking about it. And they didn't come backstage or anything, but, they were unmissable out in the audience.
Really? What, you think
they're like a vibe?
Visually distinctive?
Maybe it was a spotlight on them. I don't know. But and then a little while later, actually, I think we had, the rumor was that Johnny Depp was coming with them, and he wasn't there with them. But then,
because that must have looked like an even cleaner equation of what? So they're
do they tell you if someone's famous? Like someone famous is coming like beforehand?
I mean,
will they be like, guess who's coming?
They
tonight?
know, and some actors don't ever want to know.
I was going to say, would that freak you out?
But I like to know.
Sure.
You
don't want to just look on stage.
Yeah,
and, like,
I would
Johnny
rather
Depp's
know
there going
exactly. So I'll always ask if there's anybody, and half the time it's like I have no idea who that person is. But okay, great. Right. I think we knew. But when Johnny Depp did come, then a little while later, totally unannounced, like didn't tell anybody, and somehow escaped being noticed on the way in, and through the whole show.
Well, he was hiding under 16 hats and scarves.
Yeah, I think so. But you would think that somebody might notice that.
There's a scarf man here.
Yeah.
I hear bracelets clanking.
But he apparently came around to the stage door and said, do you think they would mind if I came back and said hi? And they're like, no, I think that probably would be okay.
Yeah.
And then word like spread like wildfire backstage. And
I mean, he's also the height of his, like Pirates of the Caribbean is very recent at this point.
I was like rewatching this, remembering, because it's kind of bizarre that he got an Oscar nomination for this.
Sure.
Not just because of the performance.
He won a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He did.
But this movie didn't have much other success with the Academy. But then I had to remember, like, this was his peak.
Yeah.
Like, this was the, like, him doing the
wanted.
Victory lap after 20 years of being this, like, underground icon of, like, now he's the biggest movie star.
Yeah.
And everyone was just so on board with him.
Yeah, him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you meet him?
Yeah, he came back, and, like, all the girls in the company all ran back up to put extra makeup on, to come back down. And
you took all your makeup off.
Yeah, I took all my makeup off. That took a while.
Yeah.
And I think he went over to see Patti first. We had dressing rooms on opposite sides of the stage, so it was hard to kind of like see everybody at once. So he went over there first, and I also had Lawrence Fishburne had come to see the show that night, and I had done.
David and I just got like shivers.
I fucking love Lawrence Fishburne. Okay,
we both got goosebumps.
I had done an episode of The Equalizer with him, like years and years before, when he was Larry Fishburne.
Yeah.
So he came back to say hi, and Adam Duritz from Counting Crows was there that night.
Duritz, Fishburne, and Depp,
who was also a friend of mine. So yes, there's a photograph of the three of us in my dressing room together. It was, or the four of us. Yeah.
Sure. Right.
So everybody ended up in my dressing room. We were hanging out for a while, and then.
But at this point, did you know that he was playing the part, or was it still sort of?
It was still like, and I asked him, like after the other guys left, he hung out for a while in my dressing room, and I had my guitar and an amp in there because I used to like practice and stuff between shows, and so we talked for a long time about music and stuff, and I said, are you doing the movie, or do you know? And he said, well, after watching, he was really very nice and complimentary.
I put myself on tape for Tim. He hasn't gotten back to me yet. I don't know.
His casting was announced, I'm finding it right, in 2007, mid-2007.
Okay.
So that's when it became formal.
Yeah. It wasn't, I guess it hadn't been announced yet.
Sure.
Very often, if there is a revival of a show that is so acclaimed and so successful, and then a new movie adaptation happens, it's like, well, either they're going to carry over some of the cast, or they're going to take their inspiration, their
never
cues.
happens.
No,
Sure.
Well, I feel like no. I feel like more often you're right. They cast big movie stars who don't have
It's
musical
one of two
training.
things. There's either the sort of the producers thing where they're like, let's just have the original cast of the hit show.
Right.
We'll hire the director of the stage show, which
Right.
is, you know,
Not
totally
always.
different skill set.
Right, Mamma Mia was that, but with a new cast.
Yeah, and
Right.
we'll just do as close to it as possible. And that usually doesn't work
Right.
because
there's
you end
some
up
weird
with,
lifeless quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or this approach, which is like, let's just cast the most famous people we can think of and hire like a big shot director.
I guess I was leading there under false pretense, but that's the thing is like the second he comes on, you're like, well, it's going to be Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, and I know what he's going to do with the material.
Yeah.
Now at this point in time, where do you stand on Tim Burton, and where do you stand on the idea of him doing it when you're starting to put this together?
I mean, I thought Sam Mendes was an exciting, great idea, but then when I heard that he wasn't doing it, I've loved Tim Burton's movies, so I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense, and I can actually see Johnny Depp, and he, I know he does sing,
yes, he
had
was
bands and stuff.
He'd been in bands, right? Yeah. Although I think he took a lot of like voice lessons because it's a whole different.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought in the world of big box office movie stars and directors, this is actually one of the better choices you could make to put this particular show out there. I did sort of feel like maybe it's a little too obvious a choice, like a little too easy.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I remember having...
Do it gothic, Tim. Although this is easily his most violent movie.
Yeah,
he's
which
never
is
made
so
anything
interesting.
quite this like graphic.
I also think this is his most...
Sleeping Hollow is also quite violent. Like
this is more violent.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, for
having
sure.
rewatched both these,
this has the very red, goopy blood.
Before,
yeah, that's the
right.
99.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
These are sort of his only two movies that are like aggressively violent and kind of scary.
Like very much a hard R. Sort
Right.
Of, yeah.
The thing I find really interesting about this movie now in the context of like, we've been watching fucking 20 films of his.
He's the one who picked Tim Burton. I want to make clear.
And I have certain regrets.
Sure.
But
it's a lot of movies.
I don't regret doing this.
No, of course not.
But
had a great time.
I'm so tired.
Oh, please.
No, the thing that stands out to me about this movie is so often he's making films from this sort of outsider perspective. I'm the weirdo.
Yeah.
I don't understand this world. I don't understand how other people behave.
Right.
Sometimes those people are villainous. Sometimes those people are well-intentioned.
Right.
But the movies are all about that sort of feeling of alienation.
Yeah.
This is a misanthropic movie. I mean, this is a movie about how everyone's terrible.
It's a very misanthropic
Yes.
show.
I'm not saying he brought that to it.
Right.
But
but it is unlike his other films in that way. Like the good characters are the weirdos in this movie.
Right.
And yes, and that's inherent to the material.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because I did have that reaction, never having seen Sweeney Todd, but growing up with theater kids who were like, "You haven't seen Sweeney?" I'm like, "I get, you would love it. It's like a musical, but it's like fucking dark." That's not me making fun of Sweeney fans. That's me making fun of 14-year-olds. But I like remember reading that announcement and going like, "Oh, I guess that makes sense."
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel excited by it because it felt so on the nose.
Yeah.
I wasn't dreading it.
Right.
I was more excited than hearing like he's going to do Dumbo, which at that time I went like, what does he have to say?
A dark Dumbo.
Right. But you read that like, that he loved the show, that he saw it. I mean, he had sort of a lightning strike moment like you did where he was in college and it was like the first musical he had ever liked and he saw it 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, I guess this is one of those things. I mean, he claims that he wrote letters to Sondheim when he was like a student at CalArts and was like, would you ever let anyone make a movie? Which he probably didn't read those letters.
Well, no, an interesting thing about him, Sondheim does, or at least used to always read the letters and would write back. Like I remember when I was in college, people saying, no, you can write to him and he will send you a typewritten letter back.
Did you
short
do
little. I didn't do it then, but I like saw friends' letters and then subsequently I had done it before I ever met him, and he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Sondheim.
very cool.
I wonder if today the same rules apply with texting Sondheim.
1-800 DVS. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, you understand all the things he's connecting to in the material.
Yeah.
But he usually is, I'm the sensitive person who is wronged by society around me. I don't know how to function.
Right.
And this is one of those weird, morally dubious things where like everyone is kind of bad in their own way.
Yeah.
Like the general take on it is just like, God, fucking people, huh?
Yeah.
Like we all suck. We deserve to be meat pies.
There's a hole in the world
Yes.
like a great back.
Right,
Yes,
right,
exactly.
right. That kind of thing, like from,
Well, no, he's style. I feel like Depp is sort of styled like Len Carey was with the sort of curtain hair.
And Elsa Lancaster.
Right.
From,
Yeah, with the
Bride of Frankenstein.
the
Right.
shock
Yeah.
of white. That's true. And as you were talking about the staging of the pie scene, like the staging is much more like the Angela Lansbury, where she's got a rolling pin,
Right.
she's got pies, she's got flour,
Yeah.
she's sort of banging it all around. Like it does feel like the original version is the one that's in his head.
Yeah.
right. And his main work he's doing is, and this is what I think
Desaturating it, desaturating
Severely.
the fuck out of it. Mhm.
severely. Like there's that scene where during the Pirelli scene when they start speaking out from the crowd,
Uh-huh.
and I go like, this is a classic like sort of Tim Burton-y moment of here you have this big crowd scene and two people in it are so incredibly stylized that even in this wide shot they're going to stand out without the need for like a special
Yeah.
on them. And the movie is so desaturated that everyone looks as pale as they do,
Right.
Yeah.
despite the fact that you know that they're wearing 2 tons
Right. They're
like,
literally caked in
white
powder.
clown
Yes.
makeup and like dark eyes. Like
Yeah.
the film is so colorless, save for that one
Yeah,
sequence.
by the sea. Yeah.
Right. Ding dong,
Oh, okay. Answer the door.
ding dong.
3
ding
of
dong,
these. Great.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
Answer the door.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Hold on. Maybe I'm like stalling for time.
Oh my god.
Open the door here.
I refuse to laugh at this.
Hello?
Hi.
You don't remember me?
No, not yet. Come into the light and say your name.
The sandwich who's applying for a job? You remember me, of course. I'm a business sandwich.
Yeah,
And a
vaguely.
job interview.
Well, and we helped you out at that time. I remember we
did.
pointed you to the right place.
You found me a job.
And do you have any needs now, Mr. Sandwich?
Yeah. I've been working nonstop, and I could use some sleep.
Oh well, you do spend 1/3 of your life in sheets, so maybe it's time for a bedding upgrade.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: plates not comfortable.
Oh, you mostly
Rigid.
nap on the plate. Yeah, no. Is it a China?
Very often, yeah.
Okay. Well, Brooklyn doesn't have China sheets. They have 5-star hotel quality sheets. They've gotten rave reviews from like Business Insider, Apartment Therapy, and
Interesting.
Men's Health.
How would you say it compares in comfort to, I don't know, a bed of lettuce?
I would say that there are 500,000 happy sleepers and counting who would tell you that it's better than sleeping on vegetables.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Man, and you have that written down in the copy? They pointedly say that it's better than sleeping on vegetables?
Yeah, it's somewhere on there. And, these are luxury sheets without the luxury markup. Most bedding is marked up 300%.
They don't charge you extra for mayo. That's what you're saying.
Brooklyn, fastest growing bedding brand in the world, they got 35,000 5-stars reviews. I mean, on Yelp, that'd be a cert.
Oh, 100%.
People would be lining up.
Yeah.
And the sheets don't just feel great; they look great too. Do aesthetics matter to you, Mr. Sandwich?
Kidding me? Yes. I mean, half of a sandwich is plating. Haven't you seen Spanglish?
I have. What a sandwich!
What a sandwich.
Do you know that guy?
Oh, good friend.
Is he a good guy?
I mean, well, we haven't talked as much recently because,
he's gotten big.
He's gotten
Yeah.
huge. But we
He's
started out together.
Okay, that's cool. And he's a nice guy.
I mean, look, I don't want to sound like I'm saying he's not a nice guy anymore. I just can't personally vouch for him anymore because
All
we've
right.
sort of gone our separate ways.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I understand. He's just a cool guy.
I have a
And if you see
family.
him, tell
I have
him
to
I say
provide
hello.
for them, so I couldn't pursue all of my Hollywood dreams. That's why I just,
You're a
there's no
journeyman.
shame in worry. I'm like the guy from the Cosby Show.
We had to bring that name up. Yeah. You mean
Not Bill Cosby.
I know.
I'm not bringing that name up. What? So I can't.
my
Sorry.
tattoo.
Am I not allowed to invoke like
Sorry, Ben.
Felicia Rashad? Yeah, everyone knows you just got a tattoo. Come on, David, get with it.
Ben's so mad right
I wonder why.
now. My Brooklyn and sheets are the most comfortable, best sheets I've ever slept on, and now it's time for your upgrade, Mr. Sandwich. Please don't say the name Bill Cosby again.
You want to bleep it out?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Brooklyn.com has an exclusive offer for just my listeners. Get 10% off your first order and free shipping when you use promo code CHECK at brooklinen.com.
Free shipping. And how quickly do they ship? Because I don't want it to spoil.
Well, these are not quite as,
right. They're not vegetables. They're not
degradable.
vegetables. I'm sorry.
Right,
That's on me. I forgot that they weren't vegetables.
And anyway, they're so confident in their product. All their sheets, comforters, and towels come with a lifetime warranty.
Oh.
But the only way to get 10% off your first order and free shipping is to use promo code CHECK at brooklinen.com. That's BROOKLINEN.com, promo code CHECK.
And do you have to leave a tip, or is gratuity included?
It's up to you.
You're saying you pay the check, the waiter serves you at the restaurant.
Yeah, brooklinen.com, promo code CHECK.
Oh, okay. Also, do you guys have any leads on jobs? It's an interesting choice to like make the entire thing look so goddamn bleak.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a choice. I don't know. I mean, also these sort of CGI London, these sorts of like weird shots where it's like, zipping around this fake Fleet Street.
When it started, I was like, oh, wait, fuck, do I hate this movie? Like when you open with like the CGI boat on the CGI rivers and then like the super fast like zooms through, I was just like, what?
All right, so before, you said you do like Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Before we get on to the plot of the movie.
Yeah. And I like Johnny Depp and I like Helena Bonham Carter.
So you were...
So I was all on board and like really eager to see it and eager to love it.
And you were telling me off mic that you saw it at the Ziegfeld.
Yeah, they had a big screening right before the opening weekend. It was like on the Wednesday before or something at the Ziegfeld, and it was their invitations to all the Broadway casts and lots of people and Sacha Baron Cohen was there, and Alan Rickman was there, and Sondheim was there, John Logan was there. I don't think Tim Burton wasn't there, I don't believe, and Johnny Depp wasn't there. But it was a celeb-y sort of New York premiere kind of thing, and in the perfect place to see it too.
Right.
Yeah. And your reaction, I mean, are you watching the film and as it's going on? Because I feel like there was a cloud forming in the months leading up to this movie's release where I feel like all the purists were like, oh, have you heard they like cut this out? They're doing this instead. Mm-hmm. Like there was a lot of skepticism from Sweeney purists months before this movie came out.
I was trying not to give in to any of that because there had been, a different version of that same thing in anticipation of our show opening. Because, we were doing a very faithful to what Sondheim had written thing. And he was there with us and he was very much on our side. And, but there were plenty of people who had heard, what, they're playing their own instruments. There's no horns. What? And so I knew what that was like. So I wasn't going to give that a lot of weight. The thing that worried me the most was seeing trailers with no singing in it.
Yeah.
And I thought, why are they trying to sell this like it's not a musical?
Like it's a horror period piece, right? Like it's a sort of...
That worried me more than anything else.
The trailer has no singing at all, except there's that one thing from Epiphany where he says, that's it. Yeah.
Which I guess people were just like, oh, I guess that's like a weird Tim Burton flourish, that one line of dialogue in a song. They have the, you sir, that leading into the I Will Have Vengeance is the only singing part in the trailer. Yeah. And this was a movie where like I remember Deadline writing the story about it, that its opening day was big and then it dropped like a stone. And they were like, people are walking out 10 minutes in and demanding their money back because they didn't know it was a musical. Like that they had sort of mostly sold it as like a slasher. They sold it like Sleepy Hollow. It came
out at Christmas,
which is an insane time to release it.
Very strange time to release a movie like this.
But this became like, oh, this is like, for the people who were like, I don't want to see that fucking Christmas family movie. Yeah. I'm going to see that like Tim Burton horror film. It's like Tim Burton Saw. And then, like, the opening is him on a pirate ship singing. And people were like, what the fuck is this?
Well, that's the thing. You can't get around it. It's almost sung through. It's mostly singing. And so you're going to start singing right away. And, you better be in on or not.
But, like, it says on the Wikipedia, people were literally, like, filing complaints to, like, not the FTC, but, like, the advertising, like, commission. Like, the film had been falsely advertised, that they went to see it under false pretenses.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree entirely.
No, it was
and I think
an
it was
insane choice.
I think it was really not smart. Like
No, I think it caused them a lot of damage. And especially when it's like you have the people who love the original work so skeptical about this.
Right.
And then you're advertising in a way to try to trick the people who aren't going to like it into seeing it. it like kind of feels like they were lining themselves up to be to get everyone angry.
But this is like the kind of musical for people who don't like musicals.
Yeah,
Right.
It's so
absolutely.
accessible. So
Own
why
that.
wouldn't you like put that forward?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You should own this is the musical for people who don't like musicals rather than being like, it's not a musical. Come on in. Just sit down. Please sit down.
Well, I did this movie, The Mexican, with Brad Pitt
Yeah.
and Julia Roberts.
You're in The
and-
Mexican?
Yeah, I
Great
played.
movie.
I
I
played
haven't
a,
seen it since I was 15 years old, which I saw on my 15-year-old birthday party. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
People are constantly
flew-
campaigning for us to cover Gore Verbinski on this show.
Oh, you should.
Yeah.
You definitely should.
Yeah, right. It's an earlier Gore.
Early Gore.
Yeah.
The weird magic gun with the heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, you were in The
exactly.
Mexican.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
So, and it was like when we shot it, it was this kind of quirky,
I know what
indie
you're gonna
kind
do.
of
Right.
thing. And, and,
And they're barely in it together.
and
right.
they were not
it's
at
two
all in it
stories.
together.
Right.
And
actually.
the poster was them canoodling.
Yeah, and the trailer was like
Yeah.
the same thing. So similarly, like they kind of sold it as this romantic comedy
Yeah.
that it wasn't, and the people who would have been interested in what it actually was didn't think it was for them, and the people who it was sold to came and it wasn't that. So it's the same thing.
That's
My
another one.
15-year-old birthday party, we all had a great time.
I was going to say, I remember that movie coming out, it opening pretty well, and then dropping so fucking hard.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in seeing it because I was like, I don't care about seeing like a Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts,
Yeah.
like rom-com.
Sure.
And then...
But it's got like Gandolfini as
Right.
a
Yeah.
gay
Well,
hitman.
then I saw it on a plane 6 months later.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, this movie
This is
fucking
great.
rules. Why didn't
Yeah.
anyone tell me it was this?
I know.
Yeah.
And in both cases, it's like you've got Johnny Depp in Sweeney Todd.
Right.
You've got like Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts. Like, what are you afraid of? Like,
That's
why
the
do you
thing.
feel
It's
like you have
also-
to sell
Give
it?
them
these
a
are-
shot.
These
Yeah.
are still commercial elements. Like saying like
Yeah.
it's sort of a stylish like crime comedy with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts is as strong a sell as it's a rom-com with Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the same thing of like, you want to see Johnny Depp sing? Here's like a really bloody musical. Is an interesting pitch for people who don't
You wanna
like
see him
musicals.
shave throats?
Right.
Was The Mexican your connection to Fringe? I'm putting this together in my head. It was the same writer.
It was. It wasn't. I mean, it
wasn't direct.
It
They
wasn't
weren't-
direct.
right,
there was
right,
like
right.
years and years in between. But yeah, when there was an interesting lining up of things.
Yeah. Great.
So
Sorry.
what
I haven't
is
thought
your,
about The Mexican in a while.
it rules? I mean,
it's a
look,
good movie.
maybe by this point in time when
Yeah,
this
we'll
episode
be
comes
talking
out,
about it.
yeah.
Right, exactly.
But sort of, what is your experience? We'll go into the plot of the film, and you'll be able to elucidate what it's doing wrong or where it's shifting from what you would have done or any of that.
Okay.
Not that I'm teeing you up to just give notes on Johnny Depp's performance or anything. But what is your sort of experience while watching the movie?
Well,
Is it like a sinking sort of stomach thing?
yeah, kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that they had taken the ballad out.
I knew that because Burton had said in interviews beforehand, like,
Yeah.
we couldn't really fit it in. They had cast people to play the chorus, Christopher Lee among them.
Really?
Yeah,
Anthony Head, that's why he's in the movie.
right.
Really?
And then I guess I think it was partly time and partly they had some sort of interruption in filming because Johnny Depp's daughter was sick
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And so it's what they cut. Now you're cutting one of the most famous numbers in Broadway history.
Yeah.
You're cutting the signature song of the show.
and the thing that starts it off.
And,
Yeah.
and here are two other crazy things. One is he cast 5 actors to play the ghost chorus.
right.
They're all gentleman ghosts. And so they announced like Christopher Lee, Anthony Head to play gentleman ghosts. And all the Sweeney Todd fans are like, there are no gentleman ghosts. What are you talking about? And then in interviews, Tim
A
Burton...
gentleman ghost. Yes.
Right. Sort of like, and he's a guy where this has come up a lot. He's not super articulate. He's kind of like sort of mumbly when he like does interviews and everything.
Yeah.
And even the people who worked with him are like, he really knows what he wants, but he's not good at expressing it. So in interviews, when people asked him what he was cutting out, he would just sort of be like, I don't know. It just feels weird to have like the townspeople singing stuff, which I think
so
set
he-
off red alerts for everyone to be
Right,
like,
right.
does this guy not get the show?
So-
then they announced they're cutting the gentleman ghosts.
Yeah.
And it wasn't clear at the time, but it was Johnny Depp's daughter had gotten sick. They shut down filming for 4 weeks, and they had to sort of restructure and go like, we've already cut a bunch in the adaptation at the script stage. Now we have to cut even more because we have to finish the movie. We have a release date to hit. Johnny Depp's probably got 3 more Pirates movies lined up that he has to jump onto.
Yeah.
So it is like this. It's a very short movie considering.
It's much shorter than the show. I would
Yeah.
think, right? It's less than 2 hours long. I feel like the
But
show
it's
is
just under 2 hours, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the
movie. And
yeah.
the show.
maybe the show isn't much longer.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
The
because-
ballad is what's been cut, and that's probably 10.
Yeah,
15
and
minutes, right.
when I was going back to look at it again in anticipation of getting together today, because I haven't seen it since I saw it in the movie theater,
Right.
And I was thinking about is it, was it for time? Because I didn't know any of the story about his daughter being sick or anything. So I didn't really know why that was cut. And I thought, was it just time? But there's so much air in it.
Yeah.
That if that was the concern, and for me, one of the problems in the film is the pacing to begin with, that it's just like, it's
rather leaden.
Yeah.
We just sort of go from scene to scene without a lot of energy to it.
And then the end moves really fast.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten,
Yeah.
like the last 10 minutes are like a bullet train, and then you're like, wait, it's over?
And that's true of the show also.
Sure. I just think when the pacing is
It's very Greek tragedy
deliberate
where-
leading up to that, it becomes more jarring. It's not that there's a problem with all the sort of inciting incidents hitting at the same time. It's that it's just like,
what, did we just wake
you get
up?
whiplash, right?
Yeah.
Because then when it starts speeding up, you're like, oh, are there going to be 30 minutes of them maintaining this pace?
Yeah. And
instead it's like 10.
Yeah. And there were just lots of places where sometimes there are places where the ballad, a reprise of the ballad would have been, that's just a montage thing anyway. Like when he's building the chair for the first time. Right. It's like you could have that
ghosts
text,
would show up someone
in there
yes.
and do two things at once instead of just watching him put gears on.
Right. And I think you need the staginess of people singing to relax the audience about the staginess. It's still stagey. The movie is stagey. Like, it's mostly in two different rooms or what, and that would just heighten the unreality a little more and like make it more fun. And it's a great song.
Well, and it is like, Sondheim, pretty smart guy.
Sure. Yeah. Good. His way
he didn't write that song by mistake.
No.
He knows you have to sort of like lure the audience into this world, especially since it's such a specific tonal thing and so different than most musicals.
Yeah.
And as I said, I love this movie, but that opening still fucking almost turned me off of it. And I've seen the thing 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, what the fuck is this? And it's like hard to imagine an opening that is so perfect at alienating almost every single audience member. Because if you're a fan of the musical, you go, why aren't they doing Ballad of Sweeney Todd? If you're...
They sort of do it over the credits, like
instrumental
plays. Yes.
And the orchestra sounds amazing. I mean, they've got the largest symphony, LSO is playing it, and Paul Gemignani, who is Sondheim's musical director, for years, is fantastic. And so the orchestra sounds amazing, and it's so exciting, and then nothing is done with it.
And then we're on a boat.
Well, but that's the thing. It's this one moment where you go like, he starts singing on the boat, and a part of the audience goes, they're singing the wrong song. What is this? They fucked it up.
Sure. Other people are like,
they're singing. They're singing a song? What is this?
Yeah.
And then even for me, I'm just like, this is dropping you in fast, and I can't get the rhythm of this thing.
I remember kind of liking it just because you've got, the young hero is singing, and then Depp sort of slinks up and he's like, meh, and like, it's fun.
And he's doing like Grand Guignol. I mean, I forgot how sort of posy this performance is. And I'm not saying it's a postury performance, but he's really going for just kind of like pure iconography. Like it's 20% nose acting. Like it's a lot of nose snarling, but it's a lot of like stillness in dramatic poses.
Yeah.
He's letting the wig do a lot of the work for him. I forgot how severe that Robert Kardashian stripe in his hair is. Not Robert Kardashian. Robert Kardashian was the father.
He had a stripe? Yeah. You mean David Schwimmer?
Yes.
Juice.
Right. He's sort of got a grown out Uncle Juice kind of thing going on.
Oh, no, wait, Rob is the son. You're right.
That's what I was fucking... not David. What's his name?
No, they're both Robert.
Okay,
both Robert.
okay.
There you go. It's explained. He named his son after himself, as people often do.
Yeah. But for me, this movie starts working when Helena Bonham Carter comes in, because I think she is super keyed into the right sort of zone.
I love Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah.
She's a great actress.
She's nothing not to love.
Exactly. Yeah. She's a fine singer. I mean, the singing in this is sort of fine. Like, I don't know how,
He hired actors who can kind of fake their way through the songs as opposed to musical theater people.
Yeah, there are a couple of people, like Laura Michelle Kelly, who plays a beggar woman.
Sure.
Yes.
Is,
she's
legit
amazing
West End stage singer.
And the woman who plays Joanna also, I think, came from the West End.
I think that's probably right.
Let's find out. I forgot about her. She was sort of, like a young discovery type.
Yeah.
Jane Weisner.
Yeah.
Yes. She's Irish. She'd been in a youth production of West Side Story, and she was discovered from that. But since
More
then,
like
she
West
did,
End Story. Am I-
yeah, you know,
Is this thing on?
Do that.
Is this thing on?
Don't do that, Griffin.
Is this thing on?
yeah, she's mostly a stage actress.
Sure.
Helena, I feel like at this point, she's a great actress.
Yeah.
Who's been around long before Tim Burton just quote unquote discovered her.
She's
Merchant Ivory.
She's stuck in a bit of a Tim Burton trap, though. I mean, that was the other thing.
But this is the thing. It's
Yeah.
like she would then, you know, after Planet of the Apes, she pops up in every Burton movie, and people would sort of going, oh, you know, because you know he'll always cast her,
And she's also not
even
doing,
though she's always good in them,
right. But I
she
think,
gets tagged unfairly with this sort of nepotist, you know, like
Right.
And then she gets this role, which is a huge role,
huge because she's played more supporting roles in all
right?
the other
Usually
films.
she's
yeah.
And again, I feel like people sort of rolled their eyes.
Yeah.
But she's pretty good. I don't
I
know.
think she's pretty great in this. I do. I mean, I understand you can throw all the complaints at the singing, but I think she's the thing he's trying to do with this movie is he's sort of trying to find a midway point between the Sondheim show and the sort of horror movies that he grew up on.
Right.
And there's a company, I forget the name, but it was like the company that was sub Hammer Horror.
Subhammer. Oh yeah, you mean like the Buckets of Blood company?
It's called like Alkeon or something like
yes.
that.
Oh, I do
It
know what
starts
you're
with an
talking
A.
about. Yeah, go on, but keep talking.
He
keep
said
talking.
he and
I'll
John
find
Logan
it.
bonded over watching
They
those
love that
movies.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
right.
That it was like this sort of like D-grade
Amicus movies. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
They were
yeah.
like, we want to make
Very-
an
That's why they
Amicus
wanted
movie.
Christopher Lee in the.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like the House that Dripped Blood, the you know,
Right.
those sorts of things.
So
Yeah.
he's like, I kind of half want to make the musical and I half want to make this sort of very straight-faced sort of like
nasty
gothic horror grandiole
blood movie.
Yeah.
film, which is like a weird balance to do. And I think she's best tapped into the sort of, not the tongue-in-cheekness of it, but the humor of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Depp is sort of like just allowing other characters to get laughs off of him in contrast.
Yeah.
Because he's so stuck in his own like universe the whole film. Like it's all him staring off into the distance.
Yeah, I remember thinking at the time and thinking again when I saw it recently that sometimes it's not good to work with the same people all the time, and especially
I
somebody
definitely feel
that you know are on such a wavelength with,
Yeah.
because maybe they don't push you the way you need. I feel like Depp has a much better performance
I agree.
in him,
Right.
That
Especially at this point in time.
This is
Yeah.
more him doing, as you say, what we might expect of him. You know?
Yeah.
And he's a charismatic actor.
Right,
Yeah.
but him in the Sam Mendes version would have probably
Right,
resulted in a more
possibly,
engaging performance.
Right.
I mean, this is really when they start to get stuck in like a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
The three of them of like
Yeah.
HBC, Burton, and Depp.
Yeah.
We're also, there's like tempered excitement every time they're announced to be doing a movie together
It's
again
like,
because it's like, well, I know what it's going to be.
good.
And this
Yeah.
one also feels like the apex of they're literally just becoming fetish objects for him.
Yeah.
Like he's found these two people with both upside down teardrop faces, these very angular, sort of gothic, beautiful people, his wife and his best friend.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he just keeps on styling them more and more to look like his dreams.
Yeah.
And I do have that like uncomfortable kind of thing watching it where it's just like, it feels like he has too much control. What we were talking about before of like the limitations and the obstacles
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he has now like had the two people he's closest to in his life are both bankable. So he can make any movie he wants with the two of them,
Right.
make them look exactly how he wants.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his regular creative collaborators and people just back off. And it just feels like there's not necessarily enough tension that he had the early parts of his career because everyone's like, yeah, do the Tim Burton thing.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Well, Sweeney is a character, and you have played Sweeney Todd. He could be one-dimensional. Like, he's this sort of Terminator-esque. He's so ruined, like, or
Yeah.
what, you know, and
Yeah.
he's so hell-bent on revenge. He's sort of this, like, ghoul.
Right.
He's
So
sort of
it's-
died already. I mean, he's like kind of a reanimated
Like, what was-
Yeah.
by
yeah.
revenge.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
like, I remember in your production, I mean, a lot, he rises out of a grave is sort of the classic introduction of Sweeney
Yeah.
Todd, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, do you think that's a limiting thing? Like that you could just sort of look at this character and be like, yeah, he's just a scary ghoul man.
I think it's a mistake when people think that that's what it is and try to
Right.
Play it
That's
that way.
right.
Obviously it's never going to be interesting if it's just one dimensional.
Mhm.
I mean I think again because our production was so unusual, it was easy to go back to the script as though like if you're doing Hamlet, you've got to look at it. People have been doing it for 400 years, but you have to pretend. Well,
Right.
what if I'm the first person to ever read this? You know, what do I know from the script? And you know, you get details like this is a guy who's been away for 12 years. This is a guy who's still a father and a husband. And my thought was, if he could have come back and found his wife and daughter immediately,
which
for all he knows, when he gets there,
they'd just be waiting for him on the deck or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
And then he'll take them and they'll escape to the north of England and have a happy life. And it's actually the villain of the piece really is Mrs. Lovett, who recognizes who he is. She's the one who's gotten rid of his wife and daughter, essentially, and then sees an opportunity to have an alliance and have this man that she always was sort of fascinated by to begin with. And she channels, and she's the Lady M of the story.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of room, and I think Johnny Depp does this, or gestures towards it with a vulnerability and a broken side, in addition to the deep wells of vengeance.
But I would say, half in Depp's performance, half in the stylization of Depp.
Yeah.
From the moment he steps forward and starts singing on that boat, you're like, this guy's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there's no coming back for this dude.
Yeah.
And that is a thing I think the movie kind of botches, which is just like, there is no possible happy scenario for this guy the way they've played him in this film. Yeah. It doesn't feel like if he met his wife, he would just be like, let me scrub this.
Yeah.
Streak out now. I can smile again. Yeah. Like, it's the difference between, like, playing Dracula, who is still, like, a romantic character with emotion and empathy, even though he is villainous, versus playing this character as a theatrical zombie, which is kind of what Burton and Depp have decided to do, that he's sort of just like a mythic monster at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, was that kind of like, not to force you to sort of spill your secrets if they are things you covet, but was there sort of like a central thing you tapped into for the character where you're just like, above all else, this is like my key to Sweeney. This is like the fundamental spine of the character. Is that?
Well, I think for me it was that he's a father, you know, and that that as deeply as he goes into his, his tragic flaw is his need for vengeance and retribution that makes him oblivious to what is literally in front of his face at times.
Right.
So, I think he has to remain a recognizable human being to us.
Yeah.
So that the monstrosity can be even more disturbing, because it's like, wow, I guess if I felt that deeply maligned and my life was taken away from me, I might actually, have that kind of revenge fantasy myself.
Sure.
Yeah. And this movie certainly has none of that tension.
No.
And
not really. It's more like, when are we going to get to, get to
the killing.
But the thing is, I feel like Depp is his best two scenes are the Pirelli scene, because he gets to be a little fun, right? He gets to have a little more levity and a little more sort of like pride in his skill.
Yeah.
And then Epiphany, which is the one time that like they kind of like, which is the, come here, I'm sweet. Again, a little like charisma. Like he's at least like alive, and the staging of that is alive with him like walking around, and it feels more unreal. It's not just him in a chair or next to a chair.
Because some of this movie feels like a fish out of water comedy. Like it's like Thor or something, where the joke is like, why is this guy so stilted?
Sure.
Like,
he's just sort of standing there being weird, right?
And he spends so much of the movie not making eye contact with people. I mean, it's like he's in his own show in his head.
Yeah.
Which is a choice.
And that can work, I think. Then it has to be supported and not left to just kind of sit there by the direction, by the design.
Right.
By,
but even when he's like peering at Joanna through the window, you're just like, this guy is still just like gone.
Yeah.
Like he's in the sunken place.
Yeah.
Like there's no rescuing him.
The biggest place I feel like they miss that opportunity is in A Little Priest, which is one of the most fun numbers in the whole show. And
it's so nastily funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so brilliantly placed in the order of things. It's right after Epiphany. So right when you've had this like bile-filled, like horrific thing,
I want you playing this.
Yeah. And then immediately Mrs. Lovett's like,
let's eat
an awful waste. And And so it should be so,
so
fun.
great.
It's so great. And it just lands like a lead balloon in the movie. And
he's very leaden in that one. He really is not doing anything.
And they also, I think, make the mistake of it's one of those, oh, okay, it's a movie, so we're going to open it up. So when they talk about each of the kinds of pies, they look out at the window and see the kind of people. And the point is not like that it's the people, it's the pie. Like in the show, it's all like pantomimed and they're always talking about pies. So it's a game between the two of them.
Right.
Instead,
it becomes a little literal.
It's so literal. When he says, is that squire on the fire? And they have a guy through the window, a squire standing in front of a fire. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it delightful and wicked and fun the way it can be without losing any of the actually giving you more of an opportunity to go even deeper in the dark stuff because you've had some playtime. So
also, I mean, this is not a dancey musical.
No,
but he even more so is trying to create more movement through his edits and the juxtaposition of images that he is through. Right.
Yeah.
Because there is some sort of like pointed choreography of people, how they rotate around each other in the room.
Yeah.
There's some sort of like theatrical, dramatic choreography that is effective.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is like that. And that's an example of one where it's just like, you're not gaining anything by doing this.
Yeah.
Ding dong. Ding dong.
Oh boy. Hello.
Wait a second. There's another sound. At the door! Get the door!
What's this?
This weird prehistoric bird in the corner. Get the door!
I don't know what
it's
this
a
is.
living. Okay, let me just
it's like a Flintstones
open the door.
creature? What is this?
Yabba dabba doo! Barney!
Hello, Fred Flintstone.
I'm here.
Okay.
I talk about vitamins.
Why are you here to talk about vitamins?
Because the Flintstones love vitamins.
Oh, boy. I put it together.
Come on, it's a short walk.
Oh, is it?
A short, barefoot walk, Barney.
Oh, Fred. Well, it's nice to see you. Thanks for taking time off.
We're old friends.
Yeah, right. From, what's the factory you work at called again?
What? Well, I work for Mr. Slate.
Yeah, Mr. Slate. Yeah, whatever.
Fred, big fan. I just wanted to say I love all the bone work you've done over the years.
Thank you. A lot of people don't give me enough credit for my engineering sense.
So, well, if you're here to talk vitamins, let me talk to you about Care Up.
Okay.
It's a monthly subscription vitamin service that delivers personalized vitamin and supplement packs right to your door.
Oh, man. So what, they got some brontosaurus carrying it around in its mouth, walking door to door?
Well, they actually use mostly like the U.S. Postal Service. I don't know if
right. So those birds that carry the mail in their mouth.
Well, here's how it works, Freddie. You go online, you take a fun, easy quiz that asks you about your diet, your health goals, your lifestyle choices.
So go online. Let me just take it one step at a time. So I got a hollowed out boulder. There's a snake inside of it who's running a bunch of gears.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you just snake inside of it. Yeah, you take a quiz. I did it. You just, it sort of asks you about like, do you feel tired? Maybe is that a problem? Do you have trouble digesting? Things like that.
I mean, constantly. What are you talking? I eat giant racks of meat.
Right, exactly.
And we don't have indoor plumbing.
And 90% of people
sleep on a goddamn rock sheet.
Okay.
Tired all the time.
Well, 90% of people
You don't even have an engine.
Thank you. My point exactly.
You got to use your feet.
I literally.
90% of people fall short of FDA recommended guidelines for at least one vitamin or nutrient. So Care Of, you take the quiz, and then it's like, we're going to send you these supplements. You can pick and choose if you don't want them. You can arrange it yourself, but they give you a little readout for what kind of supplements you need.
But so a woolly mammoth gets the mail from the birds and then files away my answers. And
yes,
then
that's right. That's what it does.
Sends a rock tortoise. No, I think I get what you're saying, Barney.
Yeah, I'm Barney. You think I'm Barney? I'm the tall one here. So they deliver. It's a big pack. It's sort of tower shaped. You open it up. It's got 30 a month's worth of individual packets.
Oh, it must be heavy.
With your name on them. No, it's very light. They're small pills.
Yeah, but I mean, the packaging must be solid rock. Right?
Yeah, Dabba-doo. Yeah, that's right. A portion of every sale goes towards the Good Plus Foundation, which provides expectant mothers in need with valuable prenatal vitamins. There are vegan and vegetarian supplement
Sets them up
options.
with a wet nurse.
Yeah, okay. What?
Wet nurse is an octopus.
I'm gonna throw something at you. If you're gluten-free or vegan or something, it'll tell you if a pill's no good.
Yeah, I can't really afford to be picky in that sort of way.
It's true. You're gluten-free is not really a concept for you yet.
Yeah.
And they've got quick stick powders that can be added to your monthly delivery for an extra easy boost whenever you need it. Those are like nutrient-packed little.
So what flavors are these coming in? Orange, strawberry.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Great.
So you got to take the online quiz. You get your pills. I've been using care of. I've taken my supplements every day. I feel like $1 million.
Good for you, Barney.
And for 50% off your first month of personalized care of vitamins, you can go to takecareof.com and enter check 50. Okay?
Oh, boy, it's going to take a lot of energy.
No, it's just 50% off your first month. You go to takecareof.com, enter check 50.
Yeah, but hitting each button on my snake keyboard, it requires me to take out a mallet.
I despise you, Fred.
My snake keyboard.
Don't you have anything else going on
I
except
don't got
describing
keys,
how
they're
your
pebbles.
world works?
I'm not talking about my daughter.
40-minute ad read. Enough.
Okay,
Go
Barney,
away.
I know where I'm not wanted.
Yeah. Go see Wilma.
Let me just pull my car out of parking.
Jesus.
Hold on, I'm just backing up. Creak. See you later.
Bye, Fred.
I love, like, just in the Pirelli sequence, the reveal, you start with Sacha Baron Cohen sharpening the blade, and then you cut to the reverse angle and you see his knuckles.
That's so good.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that that's like perfect Burton, like delayed gratification. Like that's where I see the animator stuff come in. He really understands like the power of like showing you an image at just the right time.
Sure.
Well, the whole by the sea thing, I think it's like one of the most successful parts of the whole movie, I think.
And that's sort of playing off this comedic concept of like Sweeney's just in another fucking show.
Yeah.
Like you can't break through to him. He's just like an Edward Gorey cartoon and these like
but
happy
it's funny if
environments.
he's sitting there all dressed up in the sea clothes and like sort of looking sulky.
But that's a musical number that's all about editing, but it works. He found an interesting way to make it cinematic.
Yeah.
The first time she slides over the pie is like a very well-timed edit. I mean, there's like a gulf between when he's onto something about not how to open the show up, but how to make it work in this medium versus when he's just opening things up or literalizing things for the sake of, I don't know, that can't just be them in a room, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which I feel
a lot
like,
of it's them in a room.
right, and you kind of have to own that.
Or walking down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
right.
and that's two problems with those two things. One, the rooms are so huge.
Very cavernous,
And
odd, and empty.
Which doesn't feel like, the London of the time.
No, it should be like cramped and smoggy and gross.
As a British person,
Exactly. My father worked on Fleet Street. Not this Fleet Street, but
yeah. So
How is that possible?
he was an Englishman.
I remember reading the newspaper stories about Sweeney Sims, the demon journalist of Fleet Street. Wait a second!
Wait a minute.
Oh, boy.
Your father was a journalist, right?
Yeah, that's
okay, nailed it.
I mean, that's what Fleet Street was in the 20th century, was where all the papers were.
Yeah.
Except the typewriters weren't filled with ink, they were filled with blood.
I'm sorry, Michael. Carry on.
So you've got these like huge cavernous rooms with just like people and nothing else in them. So you're more aware of any kind of staging, moving them around stuff or not doing it. And you also like just don't have a lot of stuff around. And then when you go into the streets of London, teeming with life at this time, and they're like empty most of the time.
It's like four people
in the movie.
in petticoats.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
It's it's just that's why. And the asylum scene is one of the more disturbing environments because it's chock full of like freaky, scary people and shadows and stuff.
Yeah,
I think the movie gets so much better in the back half of it.
I agree.
When it's embracing the nightmarishness. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It takes, I mean, the movie doesn't have much of a pulse until blood starts spurting. Like, there's a clear, like, shift of, like,
Yeah.
You know, the way that
Well, and also,
musicals.
it's color. Like, and the
Yes.
movie demands
Which is necessary.
color.
Yeah.
And so that is the one thing that's good about the the very, very
which I think is
desaturated.
intentional,
Yeah, of course,
but it
of
makes
course.
the first hour a little tricky to get into.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, in the same way that, like, you know, musicals are, the characters are at a point where the only way to express themselves is to break into song.
Exactly.
The blood feels like it's serving a similar purpose in this. Like, he's using the blood as sort of a cathartic opening of
Yeah.
everything that's so repressed. But the problem is, you are setting up, and I like this film, but you are setting up a film where it's like, okay, so for the first hour, it's going to be monochromatic and no one has any emotions.
Sure.
Because I'm leading it all. It's all wind up for the second hour where it's a ton of blood.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think it could have worked just as it is if you really felt underneath that surface, you know, Depp's surface deadness, there was this raging fire inside,
But
which
he's
you just don't.
I-
And that's where I
yeah.
think, you know,
That's
he
the
could have
failing.
been helped
And,
could have
by
been
and the
pushed.
zombie
Yeah, sure.
thing is just like, you know, I go to that specific analogy because it just feels like he's like driven by like brains. Like it's like
Yeah,
there's
sure.
not a thought process. He's just moving towards an end goal without any sort of strategy.
as opposed to Alan Rickman, who I mean
so
is
good.
So
just
fucking
a
good in that.
brilliant actor,
Yeah,
period, and
right.
a great stage actor, and
Yeah.
you know, and also not that I know a particular musical theater actor, but he knows how to use language and fill, you know, your text
Yes.
with so much nuance and complicated. I mean,
It is
he's a
incredible.
much more torn, you know, driven, troubled, questioning character than Sweeney Todd is. And,
Right.
You know,
And I think
first half.
he's also owning that this is a filmed musical. I mean,
Yeah.
he knows that he can do slightly more introspective work because the camera's like,
right.
On his face.
you know, 2 feet away
Yeah.
from him. And then even as another parallel, like Timothy Spall is going big with this performance.
Yes,
I mean,
he is.
Timothy Spall is one of those guys where I've seen him give the most subtle,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but right, you can sort of wind him up, and he's like, "Let me go,"
Yeah,
and you can
okay.
let him go.
Well, and
I mean, you think of
especially-
like Harry Potter, you think of
Right,
Enchanted,
right,
like,
right.
yeah,
Yes. But he is tapped into the central sort of vanity of this character
totally.
that's
He's
driving
great.
him, where even though it's very cartoonish, it's rooted in a real thing. And
Yeah.
you see that. You see him playing the conflicting emotions.
Yeah. And
Whereas,
there's a real need.
right, Depp, there,
No.
it's just like eyes on the prize, like,
Yeah.
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 In a way that is sort of lacking any nuance.
Yeah. I mean,
It's well performed, but it's like,
and I'm certain that there was more
yeah.
there.
In this
You know,
time
I mean,
period,
he's-
there's more to mine.
He's a very good actor.
He is, and this is sort of his last sort of quote unquote good performance. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
about his filmography. Like after this, after this he makes Public Enemies,
Right.
which he's pretty good in. He's sort of being used as a marquee idol there.
I mean, I think his last good performance is Rango.
Yeah, and then he's in Alice in Wonderland and The Tourist, and then he's in Rango.
Right. I mean, this is when we start moving into a really bad direction.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
he does another Pirates. He does Dark Shadows. He does
Right.
The Lone Ranger.
He does another Alice.
He does Mordecai. He does another Alice. Right, and
Yeah.
but certainly, I do think he is somewhat trying to stretch himself. That's why he got an Oscar nomination.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I agree that he's a little lifeless.
I wonder too if any of it has to do with so much of your performance having to be through singing,
Mhm.
and and maybe not feeling entirely confident, even
Right.
though he is a singer and has a very nice voice. But
Yeah.
it's different. It's different being a pop singer or a rock singer,
Right.
and a a storytelling theatrical singer. And I feel like it's a problem, I think, generally in musicals on stage too, that often when people open their mouths to sing, they kind of stop
acting.
doing anything
They're
else.
just singing.
Yeah, they're
Right.
just singing. And I understand why. And it's, you have a lot to think about when you're singing, but it almost, I would always rather hear somebody who's not hitting every note beautifully, but is really telling me the story and really using the text to like convey the character and everything else.
And I do feel a little self-consciousness maybe at what he perceives as his lack of experience.
Whereas Helena doesn't have that.
She's
Helena
going
doesn't
for
have
it.
that.
And
She's
right.
sort of just having fun.
Yeah.
Right.
But also even like this is not a musical where they did the songs live, you know?
so
Sure.
that's
No,
another
no,
thing I
right,
think was
yes.
a big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see him, like, there are moments, especially in some of the bigger, sort of more operatic songs, where his performance sort of, they still sing on set because, as Burton says, you have to match the sort of the breathing and all of that.
Right.
But I sense in his physical performance less confidence than what is on the track, which he probably had more time to like hone.
Sure.
And then I feel at moments distinctly like he looks not embarrassed to be singing, but embarrassed that he maybe isn't as
or
experienced.
Maybe it's not that so much as like trying. I mean, because when you're essentially lip syncing in your live performance, you're trying not to screw up all the time.
Yes.
And so there's this. And I'm sure there also was a lot of concern and probably discussion about, the scale of the performance and the singing, the scale of, for the camera, what's too much. And it just felt like everybody was afraid of going too far, being, too far over the line, or for the most part. And you have to make a decision in the recording studio in a booth.
Which is a nightmare. Yeah.
About what it's going to be, and then recreate it on the day with all this other stuff going on. I mean, it's a really difficult task, and it just seems like I just would have loved to see them do it live, see them, not worry so much about the details and the particulars and the nuances and tones, and just go and chew the scenery a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she's having a lot more fun with it. And she seems a little more confident. And I do feel like she is certainly doing that thing where she is singing in character.
Yeah.
And she is acting while she's singing.
Yeah, you're getting the story. You're getting the, thought processes and stuff. Yeah.
The other thing I just was really taken by rewatching it is her eye acting is so good. Because so much of this movie relies on
her sort of like twitchily looking around. And
the shifting of her focus. I mean, like Tim Burton milked so much out of her glancing from one area to another, especially sort of choreographed to the rhythms of the music.
Yeah, and
she's
all the
very
plates
often,
she's got spinning, right?
Yeah.
Like that's sort of what that character is, where she's like, I spot an opportunity,
But as you say, for her to be the sort of Lady Macbeth figure that makes the show as tragic as it could be, you have to believe that she is preventing him from a certain level of happiness that I don't think is attainable.
Yeah.
From the start of this show, when she reveals that, she has lied about his wife, I just go like, yeah, but I mean, they weren't going to get together.
Right.
What are you talking about? He's gone. He's like RoboCop now.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no going back home.
It could have been that she gives him the razors.
Yeah.
He starts a nice little barber business.
Right.
He's good at it.
I mean, he's good at it.
He's a great barber.
Yeah.
Let's say that. He's a great barber.
Exactly. She can close the shop,
Yeah.
That's that they could make a profit if he wasn't so intent on stabbing people in the throat.
Well, I mean, repeat business is nil. That's a big problem with this business
I mean, it's a
model.
big town, but still.
Right.
Yeah, and also word of mouth, non-existent.
But that's another
you
thing
don't have
about
any people walking out the store
right.
going like, I cannot recommend this guy highly enough.
Except for the one guy with the family who comes.
Yeah, which is another moment that I think is pretty well executed of revealing that family through the cut, where you don't understand why he hasn't slashed the guy's throat yet, and you cut to the other angle.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's other stuff we should talk about.
Can we talk about Sasha's performance?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He's so great.
He's really great.
He is. He's really into it, and he's fun.
He's fun.
He's really fun.
You kind of get the feeling it's like he figures I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm just gonna go for it.
It was one of those. I remember I saw this in theaters. I was living in Paris with my friends. This is actually true.
Ah, great.
I saw so many weird movies in Paris that would I saw this with French subtitles. Like you see, because in French they will usually show it in the language, but they'll put French subtitles on it.
After college, David.
It's weird. It's weird to see them try to translate Sondheim into French, lyrics.
After college, David lived in Paris for a year and worked as a bartender, aka the sexiest thing that anyone's ever done.
So mysterious of you, David.
So compelling. You saw this in France, and when Sacha Baron Cohen comes on screen,
it was when the credits played.
Okay, and his name came up.
My friend and I were like, Sacha Baron Cohen is in this?
Oh, you didn't know he was in it?
No.
Ali
For some
G?
reason, exactly. I grew up in England.
Yeah.
Ali
Yeah,
G
yeah.
was very important to me.
Yeah.
And I guess
I feel like this was the
Borat
first
had
thing
just
they announced
happened,
right
I guess.
after Borat. Like,
so I
this
guess
was his
he's really
immediate
on the
Borat
right.
follow-up.
He's really
Yeah.
sort of king of the world,
Right.
And this is him doing a different thing. It's in his wheelhouse. He's
Yeah.
doing a funny Cockney accent. He's doing a funny, European Italian
Right.
guy accent. But he's a decent singer. He's got like a nice.
Oh yeah,
Sort of like profound voice, he's fun.
and he's playing emotional depths to this character. I mean, the pettiness and the sort of strategic-minded kind of wiliness of him.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I remember them announcing his casting in that sort of like. I mean, this movie, they film it the beginning of 2007. Borat comes out the end of 2006, and I feel like this was maybe the first post-Borat where everyone was going like, well, you can't keep on doing these like hidden camera movies forever because everyone's going to know what he does.
Yeah.
So everyone was trying to go like, what's his movie career going to be like now?
Sure. Right.
Like what's it going to be? And this seemed to be, I mean, he has pretty consistently always been more interesting if you give him a supporting part in a scripted movie versus his scripted vehicles, which don't really work.
Well, like you can imagine Johnny Depp being a great Pirelli.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Without the burden of carrying this, iconic character and everything
Especially
else.
in his early Burton working relationship where he was a leading man making character actor choices.
And also,
whereas this, it feels like he's burdened with the like, I'm the leading man.
Yeah.
he would have a whole spin on this sort of showman thing anyway. It would be great. Yeah. It was the Pope. That's my favorite line. It's so funny. And then they have the little little portrait of the Pope.
Yeah.
So funny.
I think Toby is very good in this too, and he didn't really act that much after this.
No, he is good. He's got a good
singer.
face.
Yeah.
I mean, often that's played by an older actor, right? Like I feel like that's played by more like a teenager, because Neil Patrick Harris played that role.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not
It's
crazy.
it's usually a young, youngish looking but older person.
Like a tenor.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And it's and it's great making it a child.
Right,
because
makes
then
it
it's
all
so
the more
more
disturbing.
horrific
Exactly.
And,
It makes,
and I love it
makes
when
that
he
number.
leave the bottle with the chin.
Yes.
I
Love
mean,
a drunk kid.
It makes those things funnier.
Drunk urchin. You're a big urchin fan.
Yeah. No, but it's like there's something like, innate in our like human condition to when you see a kid with dirt on his face who looks sad.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
it makes those jokes funnier.
Yeah.
It makes,
makes
the ending
his
all the
sweetness
more
sadder.
frightening. Yeah.
Right. And it makes it more frightening and it makes the tension of when he's locked in the basement really like visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like something you really kind of gain.
Yeah.
Something that I think doesn't work in making it a film rather than a stage show is the second the beggar woman comes on screen.
Yeah.
You don't have the same sort of license that you have in a stage production where you're like, well, actors double up on parts.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that they're not showing her face, you immediately go like, well, this has to be something.
Yeah.
Like they're clearly withholding a clear shot of her face for a reason.
Again, the other problem of this empty London where she's like
Well,
the
that's-
only character who's on the street.
Because in the production,
There's
she
a whole
gets
teeming
lost
mass, right.
And you really don't clock it so much. But there's no way not to in this.
Right, it's theatrical license.
Yeah.
Who knows? Whatever.
And she's great. I mean, I felt like
a
she's
very
a
good
fantastic
performance.
singer,
Yeah.
and emotionally, brings everything that you would want to it. But it is sort of no not knowing where that's headed.
It's that sort of basic like film language. Like I literally think the only movie where that works is somehow The Prestige.
Right.
Where for an hour into it, you
Who
don't
is this guy?
really clock that they're not showing you the other guy.
Yeah.
You know? And he only starts focusing on it when he wants you to like figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like any other time in a movie where they don't give you a close up of a character saying that much dialogue, you
It's tough
know
to do.
something's happening.
Yeah.
You know that they're withholding something for you.
Yeah.
Deliberately to trick you.
Yeah. Who else? The two young, romantic characters.
They're very pretty.
They're pretty and, sing well enough. And
I rewatching this, forgot until she comes on screen that it isn't Amanda Seyfried. Because I had somehow combined this and Les Mis in my head between the Sacha Baron Cohen, Helena Bonham Carter, and the sort of like kept woman in the ivory tower.
Even though Les Mis is after Sweeney Todd, like that's what this is making fun. I mean, that's what Joanna's such a good song is.
Exactly.
It's sort of like you're like, wait, is this a love song or is this frightening?
Right.
But they're fun. Jamie Campbell Bower, he's been around since,
he's been
right?
around. He was in the Twilight movies. And he's been in a couple of those
He's got
big
that
franchises.
sort of vampire look.
He's a handsome vampire.
He's a drawn Englishman, a very skinny, drawn Englishman. And it's a very small, it's a very intimate movie.
It is.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you had done this intimate show, but obviously intimacy is way easier to get away with on stage than it is on screen.
You would think it's easier on screen.
Well, in some ways it can be because you can. But I think if you're not moving around from set to set too much, it can become very oppressive very fast in a movie.
I think that's also one of the reasons why I hate all the sweeping CGI town shots.
Right.
Not just because I think they are not particularly well executed, but it feels like you are trying to quote unquote open this up in a way that's totally unnecessary and works against what should be an asset.
Yeah.
How intimate it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
You should feel sort of bottled within it. And every time they cut to the CGI like cityscape or the crazy sort of zooms through the city, I'm just like, you're working against yourself.
Yeah, if it was a claustrophobic, you could never get away from, never get any perspective, I think that would make you even more in the middle of the story.
Well, even you look at something like the first Burton Batman, where it's like they have this massive city set, but you can tell they only could really afford to build this one sort of town square center.
Right.
And the fact that the set is that big, but you're also so confined to this one area helps add to the menace of the city.
Yeah.
And this, it's like every time they zoom out, you deflate the balloon a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. If you can zip around London that quickly, it's easy.
Because the thing starts really
just leave.
Clicking in a real high gear.
This won for production design. It won the Academy Award.
I totally forgot
Dante
that.
Ferretti, who's obviously a legendary.
I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
But you think of Dante Ferretti, you think of like Gangs of New York, you think of these giant sets that he would build out in Rome.
But another movie where like the town square, sort of the main area where they meet.
That's like the greatest set.
It helps if you like movies like this. You just have one giant set.
Yeah.
Where you cannot comprehend how big the set is,
Sure.
but you also understand where the walls are.
Yeah.
I was sort of getting a Peaky Blinders kind of vibe to the set.
Yeah, sure. Penn loves Peaky Blinders. He likes to bring up Peaky Blinders all the time.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
It rules.
It does.
It's so good.
It
so
does.
I was just like the whole time, I'm like, are some Peaky Boys going to show up?
Or some peaky
That's
boys.
that's like it's like 50 years on, I think. Right? They're like post World War One, right?
Okay.
The Peaky
You can
Blinders.
pretend this is a prequel to Peaky Blinders.
I will.
That's also Birmingham, which is the even like glummer place than Birmingham. He did it better
You
from the
saying
accent.
it won the Oscar. The other thing I forgot that I was only reminded by looking at Wikipedia was that this won Best Picture and Best Actor at the Golden Globes.
Correct.
And I was like, why do I have no memory of that happening? And it's because
It's the strike year.
this is the writer's strike year where the
Where they
Golden
just read
Globes
them out.
was a news broadcast.
Yes. Yeah. It was
They had-
20 minutes long.
They had two people.
Yeah.
And they just in like a fucking local news set. I forget who it was. It was like sub Entertainment Tonight anchors. It was like those types of people. It was like, Billy Bush or whoever going like, and the winner is Johnny Depp. And then they just play a clip and there were no acceptance speeches.
Of course not.
They barely read the nominees.
No, I think they just read the winners.
They just read the winners. It was like 45 minutes long. I remember watching it sadly in my college dorm room. Where you had only like the college
They did it in
local
your college dorm room?
cable. I bought a little TV. They did it in my college dorm room. Jackie Wasserstein from down the hall was the host.
Read
it was this very surprising year because Mad Men was in its first season.
Right.
And was still this sort of like critical favorite that was on a weird channel no one watched.
Yeah,
And it won the Globe and John Hamm won Best Actor. And it was just sort of like in the list.
Right.
And people were like, wow, that would have been a big deal if this was
if anybody
be
knew about it.
televised. Right. Yeah.
Every shocking win failed to make any imprint because there were no acceptance speeches,
so
which you
interesting.
realize are what make those awards mean something.
Yeah.
Right. If someone
Even
just
though it's
coming in.
something they're always trying to cut down
Right.
to the
They're like,
minimum.
no, shorter. Right.
But it's like the greatest illustration of like, if you don't see what winning the award means to the person, the award
hard to
kind of
care,
means nothing to the public.
That's
and you
really
just
interesting.
imagine how weird it is for Johnny Depp to just like get FedExed in the mail, like, because you imagine he probably wasn't watching that broadcast and then just shows up on his doorstep and he's
I
like,
guess so.
I want a Globe.
Here's your Globe
What is
for
this?
Best
What is
Comedy.
this
Yeah,
thing?
for best comedy.
It was Best Comedy.
Best comedy or musical, yeah. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
Open the door.
Let me open it. Weird, there's nothing here. But you heard that definitely, right? Someone rang the doorbell?
Yeah, definitely heard a doorbell.
Let me just close it behind me. Slam. Wait a second. What's that coming through the AC vents? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Ah, yes, it's me,
Who is it?
Hexus.
Oh, from
Fern Gully, the
Fern
last
Gully.
rainforest.
you're like
a physical
sort of
manifestation of pollution.
an atmospheric beast.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a series of toxins
Right.
transmitted through the air
You're kind of cloudy.
that have vaguely formed a Tim Curry-voiced man in a suit.
I don't like you, Hexus.
Well, what are you going to do about it? There's no way to stop me.
Pretty sure I'm going to use Molecule, which is the only air purifier that actually destroys pollutants.
What?
It's a complete reinvention of the air purifier. It's not an improvement on an existing outdated technology. It's a totally new thing.
Fuck, because I figured out how to stop those outdated technologies, but this one sounds tough.
It actively destroys harmful pollutants like bacteria or viruses or mold or allergens, airborne chemicals.
Even
It doesn't
Hexus?
It doesn't collect them on a filter. It annihilates them.
Oh, boy.
So it's replacing, Molecule's replacing a 50-year-old antiquated technology. Like, imagine if your phone was the same as it had been in the 40s. That's what air purifiers are.
Oh, yes. Let me just imagine that while I slowly put away my 1940s telephone.
Molecule is introducing a breakthrough science that is finally capable of destroying air pollutants at a molecular level. It goes beyond filtration. It doesn't just capture, completely destroys, including pollutants that are 1,000 times smaller than a HEPA filter can trap.
Okay, this ad read is starting to feel a little aggro. It feels like you're almost pointedly trying to get rid of me.
Well, you are only an evil pollutant monster, right? Like, do you have other
Excuse
interests?
me, I'm not. Oh, yes, I love movies.
Oh, you love movies?
I love talking about filmographies. And I thought I could come in the studio and get myself booked on an episode. But apparently it's get rid of Hexus
No,
Day.
Hexus, let's talk. Because you like movies?
I love movies.
How do you feel?
Blanket.
How do you feel about the environment?
Blanket.
Blanket.
Well, you can't really dab me.
I sort of
because
waved at you.
My fist is smoke.
But you like movies? That's fine. How do you feel about the environment?
I hate it. What do you mean? We all do. We try to destroy it.
Okay. All right. So back to Molecule. They make a meaningful impact for asthma and allergy sufferers. In a study of 49 allergy sufferers, Molecule's technology provided dramatic, statistically significant, sustained symptom reduction. One customer said she was able to breathe through her nose for the first time in 15 years.
Can we talk about how twisted David Lynch is? I thought maybe.
Oh, you're one of those who wants a lynch pod?
Yo, I mean, he's crazy, man.
He is crazy. But unfortunately, Molecule's technology has been personally effective and verified by science. And most importantly, it's been tested by real people. Molecules already helped allergy and asthma sufferers around the country better cope with their conditions, significantly reduce their symptoms. So we're just going to have to get rid of you, Hexus.
Do you remember that time he bought the cow and had it on the side of the road, and that was his Oscar campaign for Laura Dern for Best Actress for Inland Empire?
Yes, good. You kind of hang out the Inland Empire a lot, right? That's a smoggy part of town.
That's my part of town.
Anyway, for $75 off your first order, visit MOLEKULE.com and at checkout enter check.
I mean, sure, do that if you want to just put me out of business. If you want to literally end my non-life.
Correct. We're going to destroy you. Bye, Hexus. That's molecule.com. Enter the promo code check.
But I am glad for its existence, if only because somebody like you who's never seen it before,
Sure.
like your introduction to it, and you're still getting Sweeney Todd.
It's still a
like
delivery
you're still
system.
getting,
Right.
yeah. So I'm happy that it exists for Sondheim and for people to discover it, and and it certainly has had a lot to do with the estimation of the piece itself.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. And it helps
culturally.
It helps people who might not have ever heard of it discover it or might not have ever seen it, and then maybe you can then go and listen to the original cast recording or your cast recording or anything like that.
It also feels to me like it doesn't feel like culturally this holds the place of, oh, this is the definitive Sweeney Todd
Right,
movie.
so we can
Certainly
never
not.
do it again. Yeah.
Or that it was so disastrous that no one wants to touch it again.
Right.
I think because of how specific Burton is,
Yeah.
and the two actors he used at the time, and how much it takes place in his own little hermetic career.
It almost stands outside.
Right, where it's just
Yeah.
like, that's his Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe 15 years from now, someone else is going to do a more traditional version or a more untraditional version.
Right.
Or whatever it is. It doesn't feel like he's sort of taken the one shot that someone had to make this movie.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if there is not a new Sweeney Todd film within the next decade or so. It just feels like it will probably happen at some point.
I suppose the only other Sondheim film adaptation is Into the Woods, really,
which is so bizarre.
which
Another
was a
movie
big
that
hit.
feels
This
like
was not a.
Yeah.
This
Right.
was a sort of medium.
a very big hit that like kind of doesn't exist.
That one kind of doesn't exist.
And feels like
That one,
another
people
movie
have already
where
sort of forgot exists,
all the
right.
purists were like, they're going to fuck it up, and then it came out and people were largely kind of indifferent to it.
I saw that.
You
Yeah.
did?
Yeah. When I was very young. And
Oh, you mean you saw like the show?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And it left a real lasting impression.
Well, it's a great show.
It was
Yeah.
a great show.
Right.
And it was, if you remember the set, it was huge.
Yes.
And that, I think, was like a real
You're talking about
moment.
the Broadway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
It was
giant
joint- it
balls.
was
huge.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid like, I like this.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw it with Vanessa Williams.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that
the,
sounds
right.
the
Makes sense.
revival of it.
That was
Right.
the revival, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's so wild that show is done so much.
Yeah.
in
That's
high
like done in high
schools
schools,
and-
they
right.
usually
yeah.
only do the first half, right?
Yeah, there's
No, I think it's just you just make the wolf a little less.
I think there is a version
Obvious.
like a young
Really?
people's
There is a
version
young-
that's
Just the first half?
Yeah,
Because I think that
before
would-
it gets dark,
right?
because shit gets dark.
Yes, it does. Yeah, certainly.
But I think that was everyone's fear going into the Disney film was like, well, that's totally what Disney's going to do.
Right.
And then they adapted the whole show and it kind of just doesn't work, but in a way that no one could really get angry about. Like, it's just sort of like, well, that
In
thing just
offensive
kind
way.
of lays there.
It's just kind of there. They do. Yeah, it's very
kind of
rote.
there,
They sort
right.
of they stage the songs.
Yeah.
It's okay. Everyone can sing, kind of. You know,
Right.
everyone's fine.
Like,
It's
that's
a little passionless.
That's an example of a movie
got
where
sets.
it feels a little claustrophobic, where the amount of time
In a
they
good
spend
way, or-
in a bad way.
Mm.
Somehow the woods set, which is big, makes the world feel too small.
Mm.
You know, or maybe it's the sets outside of the woods. I don't know what it is, but
Outside of
there's
the
something
woods,
about that
outside of the
movie
woods.
that cost like fucking $80 million and still feels really small and hermetic in a way that doesn't help it.
Yeah.
But like everyone's good in it. Like it's like a weird, you know.
I have to see. I don't know
It's
why.
like
I
the-
didn't.
Chris Pine and Billy Magnuson doing the agony
Yeah.
is very funny.
That's
It
great.
has
I'll bet.
moments that are great.
Emily
because
Blunt's great in it.
Emily Blunt's quite good.
She's like
she's a talented
right.
actor.
Yeah.
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 All right, let's play the box office game.
Okay. I still, I mean,
You still like it?
no, I still like it. But the other thing I was going to say is, you know, people, how few Sondheim adaptations we get,
Yeah.
how sort of sacred those texts seem to be, and how afraid people are to try to bring them to screen. I so badly wish someone had the courage to try to do Assassins, which is a tricky one because
Yeah.
it is very stagey in sort of its whole conception. That it
But-
doesn't take place in a tangible reality, but
yeah,
I
but
think
if
there's
you
a way.
lean into it,
That's
and,
what I think.
You know, I think, yeah. I mean, so many of them. Company could,
Yeah.
you know, could be a really interesting small scale, like Mike Lee-ish kind
Yeah.
of
Oh my
musical.
God.
There are ways to get
Um,
creative with his
yeah.
shows and
Follies seems
right.
like designed to be a film.
Yeah,
You know?
I just-
Follies is the one that would be easiest, I think. Company would be fun. And this new company that I saw in London.
Oh, there's
With
and there's
Patti.
another one here. The Fiasco Theater Company, I think, is doing
Really?
it at Roundabout. Somebody was just telling me.
It's a
Or
great show.
no. Sorry, Merrily We Roll Along.
Oh,
Good
yeah,
one.
right. No, that's that's being staged here right now. That's in Lady Bird, so I feel like that's been handled.
Sure.
That's the show they're doing in Lady
That's
Bird.
right. That's
Sure.
right.
They didn't understand it. That's what that's what he says.
You know that Mark Kudish is on season 2 of The Tick.
I heard.
So I have this, like, I've repeated it to everyone who has the power to make these decisions. But I'm like, if we get a season 3, if we keep going, every season we got to get someone from the
Broadway musical.
2003, 2004 production.
Oh, if Assassins. Like,
Right. I'm like,
working with
literally,
people.
we're just working with the Assassins.
Dennis O'Hare would be perfect.
I mean,
for
it's
the
a
show.
great Becky Ann
You know,
Baker.
Becky Ann
These are like
Baker,
great,
Kathy Garrison.
great
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
Like let's get them all in there. Yeah,
Sure.
right. Neil Patrick Harris could play Chairface Chippendale.
Yeah.
He'd love it.
You'd
all,
love it,
all leading up to the musical Tick episode.
right?
You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
That'd be good.
fun.
I kind of the only person in the cast who can't sing.
Right, but then it would be like Buffy, the Buffy musical episode where Buffy doesn't sing too much.
Right, you cut around me.
Or no, it's Willow who can't sing. Right.
Yeah.
Willow
You have no
doesn't really sing.
shame. You'd be great.
I would commit. I would certainly commit.
Griffin has plenty of shame. What are you talking about? He just weaponizes
Not in
it.
that.
Right.
I weaponize my
Weaponize
shame.
it.
I weaponize my shame. That is true. I make it seem like a choice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, but like Valerie's a great singer.
Yeah.
Peter's a great singer. Have you ever heard Peter like?
Peter seems like the guy who'd be a great singer.
Peter
I
for
mean, those
fun-
English people also, they are always like 5 tool talents, like
Yeah.
secretly separately where they're like, oh, I can fence and dance. What are you talking about?
right.
Yeah.
I had to do it for my O levels.
Exactly.
Yeah. Peter does this crazy thing where like the hours on the show are so difficult. It's such a physically demanding thing.
Yeah.
There's so much verbal dexterity that he has to apply for that character.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll stay up until like 3 o'clock in the morning every night being like, can I play you something I worked on last night? I just thought I had this idea. I thought it was funny and I stayed up working on it. And it's either like a video where he'll like cut something together and redub the people or whatever.
Sure.
Or he'll write song parodies.
Like Weird Al Yankovic style? Like,
Yeah, but he'll do them in perfect impressions of the people.
Right,
so he's done like Beatles songs where he just like,
he's just changing the lyrics.
you know, the beginning of Day in the Life where it's like, get up, get out of bed.
Of course.
Yeah.
He does a version of the song where it never gets out of that period. And Paul McCartney just keeps describing
His
every
whole
single thing that
tedious
happened
day.
that morning. And he like played it for me. I was like, why did you do this? And he was like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
Well, that's
But
his
then-
personality, right?
But it's
Like,
so right, and then you like go, wait a second, you're like singing really well as Paul McCartney. He's done the same thing with Bowie, like he does like a perfect Bowie.
Sure. Do a musical episode.
Scott and Brennan are both great singers.
Get Sondheim on board.
Yeah, we should. I bet he would love to do
Imagine.
that.
Love it. He must love the Tick.
He must. There's no way that Stephen Sondheim
Doesn't watch the Tick.
Doesn't like
0% chance. Okay, box office game.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to explain this game for Michael? This is December 21st, 2007.
I'm a crazy person, and the only thing that sticks in my brain is box office performances of movies. So I try to guess the box office the weekend that the film came out.
Actually. Oh, wow. This is a good one for you. Okay.
Was this? It
You're
was.
welcome to join in as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Please
Guess.
guess. Sorry. What were you going to say?
This is literally Christmas.
Yeah. It's a
Does it
Christmas,
come out on a
Christmas
Wednesday?
weekend. It might. It's 21st to 25th. It's a
Okay.
4-day weekend.
Yeah,
It opened to $13 million.
and I feel like
Sweeney Todd.
right. I feel like 4 or 5 were the opening day,
Sure.
and then it like dropped 70% on day 2.
It did pretty well on Christmas. I was looking at its daily.
Weird.
But
Yeah.
you know, it's Christmas. People go to the movies.
Right.
They go see Sweeney Todd.
right, but it opens pretty low. It's like
Open people's throats up.
Some families, you know.
yeah. I think it was 13 for the 4-day, and then
Yeah,
like
50,
9 for the
52 domestic was its final total.
terrible,
Which is
not great.
basically its budget.
yeah.
And 152 worldwide.
Yeah, so it did, I made okay. No one took a bath.
Now,
on
number one is a movie we've talked about. It's a sequel.
it. Okay, Ben loves it. He's pointing to and he's pumping his fist.
It's a sequel in a franchise that never got to go any further. But it did really well.
This is the second and last film
That's right.
in the
it
franchise.
can't be the last.
Well, they could make another one. It's been a while.
And Ben loves it. And it's from 2007.
Yeah. It's from
Is it
2007.
National Treasure Book of Secrets?
Yeah.
See? Here he
Nicolas
is.
Cage's character's name is Ben.
Benjamin Gates,
I don't know.
I think.
I just
sounds
remember
right.
that.
Because isn't he like supposed to be a great descendant of...
Like Benjamin Franklin or
I think
something.
so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Right, because in families... right, the
The
first
one where
name
they
was-
steal the Constitution, or is that the first one?
No, the second one is they steal the Book of Secrets. Right?
Of course.
Fuck.
I don't know. I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first one. I
I think
remember
the first
that.
one they steal the
Do you have a
Constitution.
National Treasure take, Michael?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's fine.
The
That's
second one, the
done
big
for me.
trailer line is, we're going to have to kidnap the president of the
Yeah,
United
right. They
States.
kidnapped the president. Right. Well, it was a big hit. It did
it-
really
it was
well.
good.
And
Yeah,
they didn't make
it-
any other.
It fucking rules. It's like an example of like easy layup to do a third movie, except 2 things happened. One, Disney shifted to being like, we only want to do movies that make $1 billion.
Right.
If a film makes $700 million, it's not worth it for us anymore. And 2 is
And be Nicolas Cage.
right. Like this was the last moment. And
yeah,
then
time just sort of caught up there.
right, they were
yeah.
like, before we do National Treasure 3, what if we do Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Yes, right.
And they
that-
just lost all their goodwill on that one.
Yeah.
My friend Derek Simon and I, we have spent years trying to stealthily do our own sort of real life National Treasure, trying to steal the script for National Treasure 3, which exists.
Sure,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
out there.
They commissioned it and they wrote it right after this, and it's just never gotten off the
Same
ground.
writers or
I believe so. We have friends who have at different times worked in the Jerry Bruckheimer Productions offices who have stolen pages for us. Truly stolen pages. My friend Derek has 2 pages framed in his office.
no way.
I have them saved to my phone. They're in the cloud. Like we know the opening 2 or 3 pages
If you ever
of the
go
script.
missing,
We're trying to. We're literally trying to. We're trying to steal the script for National Treasure 3. Okay, so that's number 1. It's a huge Christmas movie. I saw it 2 times in
Fair
theaters.
enough.
It was the movie my whole family went to see on Christmas Day. Because it was that type of movie where it was like everyone can kind of agree on it. No one's totally excited except for Griffin.
right. Okay, number 2 is a film I saw in theaters. It's kind of a horror movie, but like very big budget horror movie with a big star.
For Christmas.
It's really good. I've always been very fond of this movie.
It's
Marley
a
and me?
This performance. Truly horrifying.
5 comedy points.
Mm-hmm.
This is no ordinary dog. Not this dog. Tell you, wow,
Grogan.
this song to Grogan.
How do I? It's a based on a book. How do you explain this movie? It's
big
scary. I saw this in
2007
theater. I was scared.
Was it an Oscar play at all?
No.
Not at all. So
No,
it's a
no.
pure commercial play.
Totally. It was a
that
big
comes
hit.
out Christmas time.
Yes, it came out the week before. It
It's
makes
dystopian.
yeah, it's the future. It comes out it makes $250 million.
It makes
Huge.
Oh, I Am Legend.
I Am Legend, the Will Smith Omega Man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you and I share this opinion, which is like
That's
one
like
of
his
those
best
movies.
performance,
Well, it's
yeah.
definitely his best performance. He is so incredibly good in that.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those movies that is so frustratingly close to being a masterpiece. It's like 80.
It doesn't have a great ending, which
No.
is sort of its problem.
And the monsters are really bad.
Yeah, they've should have goopy.
They like that's one of those crazy movies. I grew up in Greenwich Village where they filmed all of that movie.
Uh-huh.
My senior year of high school was every night I would look out my window and watch them
the
filming
helicopters of it,
overnights.
yeah.
Right, and they like in the Washington square fountain.
Yeah.
They would have like clearly like movement actors and like dancers in white leotards and vampire makeup running and scurrying around, and I would just like literally like hands on my on my chin look out and be like, someday I'm gonna be in the pictures. And then they thought that the vampires looked so bad that they like at the last minute CGI'd all of them. And they look really bad and really rushed.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that the practical ones look worse.
Yeah.
But the stuff that's good in that movie is so fucking good. And Will Smith rules in that.
Yeah.
Do you have an Iron Legend take? You don't have to.
I'm just agreeing. I remember seeing it, and I remember when they were filming it too. Marin Ireland is a friend of mine,
Yes.
and she's like bleeds from the eyes at the fence at some point. I remember that vividly.
All right, number 3 is a children's film that you like to talk about, the first in a long-running franchise that is not going away.
Right, and ironically, I have only seen 2 out of the 4.
And this isn't one of them?
No, this
No, you've
is.
seen
I
this
hate
one.
this fucking movie.
Sure,
it's
sure,
Alvin and
sure.
the Chipmunks,
That's right.
which makes an insane amount of money.
Huge hit.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
surprise hit in 2007.
right, the entire like sort of economy of a small country.
Do you remember the tagline for the first movie?
Alvin.
No. It's really specific. You only would have done this tagline right about now.
Here Comes Trouble.
The original Entourage.
Oh fuck!
In
that.
like sort of the font of Entourage.
I also remember the poster. Like they all had like bucket hats and
They have
sunglasses.
like hoodies
on.
up and they're
Yeah.
like cool.
Yeah. No, there was a poster that was Jason Lee just leaning into a white negative space, the void of humanity, and the 3 chipmunks are there, and the tagline was just "Here comes trouble."
That's right. That's
Right.
this one here.
Right. Here
we
comes
go.
trouble,
Right.
and they're all dressed in their sort of entourage adjacent wardrobes.
One of them's got a bucket hat.
I did not I did not know that the film was being made, and I went to see a movie with my friends that summer, and we walked by that poster and stopped and just stared at it for 5 minutes.
The original Entourage.
Wow.
For 5 minutes, we just looked at it and went,
Which
"Here
one's Turtle?"
comes trouble."
I think
Theodore.
Theodore's turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's little. I
Right.
guess he's the little one.
Right. Simon is E.
Sure. Yeah, because
Alvin
he's
is
sort of
obviously
nerdy.
Vinny Chase.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Dave Seville is Johnny Drama.
Sure.
Who's Ari?
Who's Ari? Fuck. In the first one, oh no, it is David Cross.
David Cross.
plays their
Yeah.
shifty agent in that movie.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Those 3 films are all about David Cross, like trying to get the better of those chipmunks. And it's one of those things where like he signed a 3-picture deal because he was like, they're not going to make a fucking sequel.
Yeah.
I want to buy a weekend house in the
Let
woods.
alone a squeakle.
Right, just let me do the first movie and get out of it. And like by 2 and 3, he would be doing the rounds promoting them and being like, I hate these producers. I hate them on a personal level. I didn't want to be in this movie.
Trying to talk
They
himself out
threatened
of
me.
4.
Right.
Yeah.
A terrible franchise.
Number 5 is Sweeney Todd. So number 4,
Mhm.
how do I describe? It's a true story legendary director, legendary screenwriter. People kind of forget this movie
Charlie
exists.
Wilson's War?
Charlie Wilson's War. Mike
No
Nichols,
recollection
Aaron
of it.
Sorkin, like Tom Hanks,
Julia
as
Roberts,
like a corrupt
and Philip
congressman.
Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah, who got Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those, like, you wouldn't believe it, but this congressman like sold guns to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
Is it something we need to re-examine now? Or
Nope.
No.
It's one of those. It's a movie that ends. The like final minute is them being like, and actually, this is serious. And you're like, it is, and they're like, yeah, I think so. Anyway, roll the credits. Like,
Yeah.
we are not going to get into it. You know, like it tries to sort of have its cake and eat it too, and like totally bungles
It tries to be sort of wag the dog
Right.
ish.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yes, it's
In
going for Wag the
pitch.
Dog. Right.
Right.
Very heightened, like Washington Would a Clown Show.
Yeah. That's also one of those movies that just has like an insanely overqualified supporting cast of people who are on the verge of becoming like major, like Emily Blunt and Amy Adams in like sort of really
In nothing roles.
Right, like Amy
Featured,
Adams plays like
yeah.
his secretary and just takes notes for Tom Hanks in a bunch of scenes.
Right.
And it's like this is the last time Amy Adams isn't Amy Adams.
Right. Yeah.
You know, with all the weight that implies. There's one great scene in that movie, which is Philip Seymour Hoffman's introduction.
Yeah, which is very funny.
Where it's him and John Slattery. And he just does, because Aaron Sorkin wrote that fucking movie too, right?
I know, yes.
There's one
said
scene of Philip Seymour Hoffman doing a 5-minute Aaron Sorkin monologue to John Slattery that ends with him taking a hammer and breaking his office window.
Right.
That rules.
Great.
I watch it on YouTube all the time. The rest of that movie does not exist. And that was one of those movies where a year in advance everyone was like, well,
Oscars are solved.
it's
Hanks,
done.
Roberts.
It's locked. They're going to sweep.
I mean, you would think.
Right. It was Nichols,
Yep,
Hanks,
and Nichols.
Roberts,
I think it's
Sorkin.
one of Nichols'
Five
last movies. Is it his last
I
movie?
think it's his very last film.
Yeah.
Right? Because Closer's before that.
It is 2004.
I think that's his last movie.
Mm.
And now, do you think it's because my father was a Greek soda pop maker, or do you think it's because I'm a fucking spy? Fuck you. That's the Philip Seymour Hoffman speech. It's really good. Watch it on YouTube.
All right. We're done.
He says, "You fucking child." It's it's a good Philip Seymour Hoffman yells at someone scene.
You want to ask those questions?
Oh, yes. Apologies in advance,
Okay.
Michael.
I have nothing to do with this.
Because you're a wonderful man. You've been very
And
kind to me.
we've been so close for so long.
We've been very friendly. I will say, I was very intimidated when you had gotten cast on the show. Big fan of your work, but was like, oh fuck.
That went away as soon as we started working together.
You're famously terrifying.
Well, I was like, oh, fuck. He's like a real actor. He's gonna like see through me.
Right,
He's gonna be
he'll
like,
walk right up to you and be like, "Excuse me."
right? Who's the fucking trained dog?
Yeah, right.
Do I have to put peanut butter on my finger in order to trick him
You're
out
like,
of?
could we put him in a velour tracksuit or something?
Yes.
Just to
And the first day that we worked together were those 2 days where we were out in the field where it was like 120
oh,
degrees.
yeah, and blowing up cars and
Right,
shit.
and you were wearing like a camel skin like coat.
Yeah.
That was like
Or camel hair.
camel hair. Sorry,
Camel skin would have
camel
been
flesh
really
hat.
disturbing.
Yeah, that would have been a real
You were in
choice.
this coat, and then you had like stunt harnesses underneath you and everything. And I was in the full costume. That was the day that Peter fainted out
Yeah.
of dehydration.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Like it was like a nuts fucking.
On the Boy Scout camp in Staten Island.
Right,
or
and we have
whatever.
like fire and explosion. We were literally on a Boy Scouts campus. We had our lunch in like the Boy Scouts like cafeteria.
Yeah.
And so you and I met like in the tent where we're like both like sweating.
Yeah.
And it was kind of great because immediately it was like, well, we're
Like,
both
there's no pretense here.
Level
just
playing
dead.
field. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But David even like said to me, not to out you, David, but you were like, I'm kind of intimidated by Michael coming in. He's like such a like serious actor. I just like, I wonder. And I was like, no, he's like the sweetest guy. He's the best. You know, he's got no ego whatsoever. And you're also just such an incredible artist and so incredible to work with. I needed to appreciate all that because you're going to stop
No,
being
you-
friends with me after this.
Okay.
So Rachel, our sometimes producer of the show, out the window here at the Audio Boom offices.
You should let her inside at some point. But
Yes. She sometimes she'll pop in and work the ones and zeros. She and her friend, big fans of your work,
okay.
big fans of Sweeney Todd, and they wrote a series of questions.
You're cold
Okay.
reading these, as far as I know, right?
I'm cold reading
Yeah.
these. So if I can put on my James Lipton hat for
Please,
a second,
please.
is Mr. Todd here with us today? Can we speak to Mr. Todd?
I suppose you could.
Wow. Not fucking around. Okay. Question number 1. Dear Mr. Todd, what barber school did you go to?
Well, I guess I would say the School of Hard Knocks.
Sure.
It's a little off Fleet Street.
Right. They have a good theater program too, right?
Yes, and
Hotel administration.
I started with shampoo, but of course was
that's like 101.
yeah. Working your way up.
Now, this one feels less like an interview question, more like a trivia question. To what foodstuff do you enjoy comparing hair colors? And don't worry, there are 4 options. A, corn. B, sunflower. C, hay. D, wheat. It's supposed to be D, but instead they put a second B in.
I'll take 2B.
Okay.
Or not.
Oh. Ooh. Mr. Todd.
Ben's very into this.
Mr. Todd, what rhymes with locksmith?
I've been stumped by this for years. Next.
Where did you plan to retire after Vengeance, since you hate London so much?
Sure. Big Black Pit.
Your post-Vengeance plans.
Blackpool.
Oh, lovely.
Great
By
answer.
the sea.
Yeah.
Right.
Lovely this time of year.
And that's, it's an
about as lovely
expansion.
as yeah.
You want to go from a pit to a pool, even if both are black.
Yeah.
Sorry if this is too personal. Did you and Miss Lovett have intercourse?
Wow. That's a question?
I did not write these questions.
I don't think
racial.
Well, I mean, I'll let Sweeney speak.
Could you be more specific? Which Mrs. Lovett?
Wow.
I think that
Let's
answer
just
speaks for
say
itself.
a barber never tells.
Okay.
Sure.
You
Famous
spent
expression.
a lot of time teaching Anthony the different shades of blonde hair. Back to the blonde hair. But when Anthony gets to the asylum, he just points to Joanna and says, "That one." Do you regret the time you spent teaching Anthony all of that? Do you think of that as sort of sunken cost?
He's a fucking idiot.
Yep.
Sure.
It feels like these questions are very pointed to try to get specific answers.
Oh, you're kidding me.
It does, and I've managed to do none of it.
When you return to London after 15 years, no one recognizes you except Senor Pirelli / Danny O'Higgins. What did you do that he remembers you? Or is face blindness limited to the English? After all, you did not recognize your own wife that you spent 15 years pining on. I mean, this feels kind of cinema, Cincy.
I never really looked at her that much when we were together. I had changed my hair, but that really, I guess that the Irish really are more perceptive race.
And you know what? That is sort of the principle your entire life is based around, that a hair can really change a man.
It's true.
A modification of a cut. Are you sorry that you didn't get to kill Anthony?
Well, I suppose this is the son I never killed, so in that way, it's probably a good thing.
Here's one, and I don't know. Someone else might enter the studio to also answer this question. Who would win in a fight between John Wilkes Booth and you?
Oh my God. John Wilkes Booth has a gun.
Yes. I'm forgetting my accents now.
Wilkesy.
Sic semper tyrannis.
Right. That's a big line.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is.
It's kind of the "at last my arm is complete again"
Yes.
of Assassins. Mm-hmm. I can tell you an interesting anecdote about that.
Please.
I always knew it from the recording as "at last my arm is complete again," which is what Len Cariou sang. So when I went to do it the first time when Sondheim was there for a run through, I did, "at last my arm is complete again," and he said, "Did they change the script?" And I was like, "No, that's what it says." And he says, "No, it should be right arm." I'm like, really?
My right arm is complete.
At last, my right arm is complete again. Meaning like metaphorical and literal. Mm-hmm. But Len Cariou was left-handed, so it was cut for Len.
Tricky Len.
Mm-hmm. And another, an Assassins-related one. I love doing research for characters, and especially when you have a real person, you can, so I did
one of the great actors of all time, John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's mostly remembered for.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Up to that point.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a collection of his letters and stuff, so it was really interesting research. And I realized that in the Balladier's song, he says, 27 years of age. Why did you do it, Johnny? And when I was reading, I realized, actually, he was killed he would have been 27 that year, but he was killed short of his birthday, so he was actually 26. Right. So, thinking I was doing him a big favor, I go up to Steve and say, Steve,
oh boy,
I'm doing a little research, and
you're going to thank me for this one.
26 years. He was actually 26, and there was a pause, and he said, 27 sounds better.
Right.
I'm like,
it's got 2 syllables.
You're Stephen Sondheim, and
Also,
you're absolutely right.
What a tragedy that John Wilkes Booth
he didn't get to join the Jimi
27
Hendrix
Club.
Club.
Yeah,
He
right?
could be up there jamming in heaven with Hendrix and Joplin and Cobain.
Maybe that's what Steve wanted to do.
Right.
Just
He was really almost there too. Looking at him, he was like 2 weeks off of his birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stevie Sondheim's doing some fuzzy math. I mean, you can give him
fair
that.
enough.
I'm going to apologize in advance for this question, which I want to remind everyone was written by Rachel, who usually acts like we are poorly behaved when she appears on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to remind everyone that
God,
she
what's
acts
the question?
like we are immature.
We gotta wrap this up.
There are 2 questions left. They're both quick. I think you will not want to answer either one.
Okay.
Did you ever eat Mrs. Lovett's pies? Also, did you ever eat Mrs. Lovett's quote-unquote pie?
What?
Get out of here,
I
Rachel.
should've.
You should have screened this.
Yeah, I didn't know this.
I will say that in our production, they were all pantomimed. So
The cunnilingus was.
yes.
There was not even a prop pie for you to eat.
Sure.
Right.
Final question, and another very leading question.
Yeah.
What did you do with the bones? Carve a nice spoon set?
I had started a band and played drums.
How's that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love a bone drum.
Right?
Yeah.
Love a
Don't
bone
you?
drum.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of bones.
Well, let's wrap it up right there.
Really, no follow up to that.
Do you have anything you want to plug? I mean, people should check out your music if they haven't. Because
Yeah, Loose Cattle is my band. We've got a few recordings out there on the iTunes, Spotify.
And you tour around,
places.
you do shows.
We tour around, yeah.
People
We
should
did
keep their finger on the pulse.
Yeah, in New York and New Orleans especially.
Mm-hmm.
We play a lot in those places. No, I just finished doing something that I'm still
Top secret.
Will have my tongue removed if I mention
Really?
it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you
And actually probably.
yeah. Now I'm trying to think because you've done your Marvel. You got your Marvel
Yeah,
punch card, which you weren't allowed to talk about.
Exactly. In fact, now I think I can because it's been on Netflix. So
Right.
Yeah,
It's been enough time.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Kevin Feige just walked in. He has a
second.
piano wire.
Yeah.
No, we were talking about your Marvel appearance and how you could come back.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Same
I mean,
thing with
the character,
Yeah.
in the comics does come
Egghead.
back as Egghead.
Yeah.
And Tick, we don't
could
know.
come back. I mean,
Toasted,
You and I have both heard some of the Blue Sky pitching
Yeah.
that they did for ideas for how you could come back that were
That were fantastic.
Right.
fantastic. It doesn't happen season 2.
Yeah.
That's a non-spoiler spoiler.
Now you tell me.
Yeah. You've been waiting for
I've been waiting. I thought this was like kind of, when I was going to find out.
Well, yeah, I can tell you, season 2, we finished filming in July, and it comes out April 5th. We're still waiting for a couple of those final rewrites on the script.
70 ADR.
I think we're still missing some pages on the script. That's the timetable we usually work on.
Sure.
Yeah. And Gotham is over now, so
Right,
guess
right.
I won't be coming back on that either.
Right. I want you to come back as Egghead.
Yeah.
I
me
I
too.
feel like the first 2 Ant-Man films have leaned heavily into like science-y villains.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want the third one to just be like,
Goofy,
here's a guy with an egg gun. I think
Exactly.
that's what why
That's what the franchise has been missing all this
why
time.
build to this sort of like superhero surplus culture if we can't get to the point where a guy's got an egg gun?
I demand it. I want that. Read. Come on.
Yes.
Ant-Man 3. Ant-Man and the Wasp and Egghead.
We dare you.
Right.
Do it and be legends. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me. This is a blast.
All right. That's good.
And thank you all for listening.
Oh.
And please remember, rate, review, subscribe.
Yes, yeah.
Thanks to Andrew Gudo for our social media, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lane Montgomery for our theme song. Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. Go to TeePublic for some real nerdy shirts. And Patreon, become Checkmate.
That's right. Patreon.
Listen to that stuff.
.com
We're going through
/blank
the Marvel film, so
That's right. We'll get to 'em.
eventually
Yeah.
get to
All right.
Eggman himself. And we'll pause the movie and go on a 40-minute Eggman-specific tangent.
Of course.
Yes. And as always, I had
Sweeney.
I had one like 45 minutes ago that I was trying to hold on to. Oh, okay.
At the end of this movie pays out like a blood bag.
Good. Very good. There we go.